Welcome once again to The Upgrade. My name is Gary Muttley. He is the one and only
Len Carmichael, Landmine Studios.
What's going on, Len?
I'm back home from a week at my dad's house taking care of him. It was one of the most tiring episodes of my life, but what I did figure out is that I'm too fat to sleep on a couch. That's really what it comes down to, because there's no bed there for me to sleep on, so I've just been sleeping on the couch in the den. And a week on a couch, my neck is fucked up right now, bro. It is just a mess. So I'm gonna have to go see my chiropractor. I think that's the story of the week. I need to go see the goddamn chiropractor.
I mean, it could be worse. You could have been on an air mattress.
Dude, I think the air mattress might have actually been better. If it stayed up.
No.
Because, like,
fat dudes couch, and air mattresses, no.
The problem is the couch is only but so wide. So then my arm is just falling off the couch all night. So all night I'm like waking up. Or, I'm like falling off the couch. It's just not, at least on the air mattress, when you're fat and you're on the air mattress, it makes a V and you stay in the middle. And then at some point in the middle of the night, you're just on the floor anyway, but you got like a boat thing. You're like kind of floating and just kind of touching the floor. I think I would have rathered that. I
can't fuck with air mattresses.
So here's the situation. It's at my dad's house. My old bedroom is there. My old bed is there, but this mattress on that bed has been there since I was 5 years old. So it is not what you would consider comfortable, and in fact, I would say it feels like a rock. So I went upstairs and I was like, could I actually sleep on this? I'm like, no, the couch is softer than this. I'm going to the couch. If I end up having to go back there again, like more times, and like spending a week there, I'm just gonna go buy a new mattress. I'm just gonna go buy one of those fucking mattresses in a box, cut that bitch open, and put it on the fucking thing.
One of those memory foam shits.
Yeah, because it'll be better than what I got.
Yeah, no, that's definitely better. My days of sleeping on couches are mostly done, and it's crazy because I think about it, like when I used to tour and shit, like sleeping on couches, no problem.
Yeah, like if I'm on tour and I have to sleep on a couch, I'm totally fine with it because I'll sleep on the couch and sleep on the floor. I'll
do it if I have to, but then the next day I'm going to be hurting a little bit.
Well, I'll be hurting worse if I slept on the floor. So, couch it is.
That's definitely true. But now that's why now, real jobs, real money, we try to just spring for a freaking hotel room most of the time.
When we were going out with Descent all the time, every time we rolled into a new place, I was like, yo, hotels.com. I was just scrolling, looking for the nicest spot for the cheapest price. So I would put in like 3 stars, under $100. And if I could get it under $100 and it was 3 stars, I knew I was getting something where I was most likely not getting bed bugs and I wasn't getting cockroaches. And that's like the whole rule for me. Like no mice, no cockroaches, and no bed bugs. Everything else is like I can get past it.
And then it gets crazy because, have you ever fucked with AirBNB?
I have not.
There's many different levels of AirBNB, and because I've gone with the band before and we stayed in Airbnb where these people basically own a house and just rent it out, and it's just their property for Airbnb that they're making loot off of.
Right.
But then you get these other things where you go and they rent out a room and like the people that live there are still chilling there.
Right. Well, one of our mutual acquaintances from New York City has one of those situations in which they rent out their place, but it's like the people that are renting the spot stay in like one area and they stay in the other. And I'm like, yo, I'm not trying to have a bunch of random people in here while I'm in here.
It's definitely, it's weird to me, but I guess a lot of people are fine with it. But to me, like, I don't, plenty of times that I'm living with people, like, I don't like the people that I'm living with. Like, I'm not going to want to fuck with some stranger.
Right.
Like, in and out, and, like, I got to go let them in and all this shit. If Like the other thing was cool. Like with the band, we did it a couple of times. We even did it in London also.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was just a house, and like we did it for FYA Fest in Florida.
Right.
And it was just, you know, the dude doesn't even have to be there to let you in. They give you a key code.
Right.
That it's got like a keypad on the door and all this stuff, and like you could just go in and out whenever you want. Like nobody has to let you in. Nothing. Like,
well, that's actually how I handle it at my dad's house. Is that since he's been sick, there's been a lockbox on the front door. So
right.
If somebody has to get in that isn't me, if you call me, I can give you the code so you can go in. And then if I give it to somebody and I don't trust that they should know the code, I go change the code.
Right. Yeah. See, that's fine to me. Like it was just kind of weird, like when you go and they're chilling and they gotta let you in and all this shit, and I'm just like,
nope.
You know, listen, it's cool for like a night, like when we played in Bayonne, me and my girlfriend did that just for the night because she wanted to drink and not have to worry about driving. But it was kind of weird. But like, listen, I'm coming back. You know, I told them flat out, I was like, I'm playing a show. Like, I'm gonna be back not till like 2 a.m. at least. And they're like, okay, cool. And I'm like,
yeah, all right. I mean, knocking on the door. Wake up, bitch.
They were like, yeah, just call. And I was like, okay. It's weird, like, because I know me. I'm not trying to wait up for some motherfucker.
No, I'm not. I don't care how much you pay, and I'm not waiting up for you.
Yeah, but people are cool with it. Like,
door locked at 10. Y'all better be in. Y'all better be in.
But that's what I mean. But then if that was me, it's like, wait, I'm paying you, and you want me to be in by 10, Mom?
Yep.
Fuck out of here.
Hey, I would put it in the ad. Like, yo, you can't come home late. Don't be late.
Yeah, don't be late.
In the driveway.
Door will be locked. I don't know. All that shit is so weird to me, but I guess now this is how people do things now. This is, you know, it's just another one of those old people moments. Like, back in my day, we didn't do that shit. Like, people are down with that shit now. Like, whatever. Hey, I guess, you know, do whatever you can to hustle and make a few bucks. Like, that's cool. But me, like, I don't even like having my kids in the house half the time. Like, I'm gonna have some stranger up in the spot. I don't know. It's crazy. Anyway, we got a guest.
Yeah, and he's coming back.
He's back.
We haven't talked to him in almost a year at this point.
We have a repeat
one of our
customer.
Guests.
Actually, he was technically
the first guest. No, the second.
Technically our first guest, but we recorded with him before our first episode.
Okay.
Like, he didn't actually show up until later, but he was a guest before we officially had a show.
The officially first
some time warp shit.
That's right, man.
Yohannes, what's up, bro?
My brothers, how you guys doing, man?
Good. Welcome back.
Doing great.
Thanks.
Just hating people as much as I always have.
Yo, have you been growing them since Corona started? Because for the listeners, you got some twists. They're not full on dreads yet.
Yeah, they've been growing for at least a solid year. I'm not gonna lie, man. Every other day I think about cutting them off just because I never thought it'd be this tough to manage hair, and it's just getting to the point where actually my wife was actually telling me the other day she's very impressed that I haven't decided not to cut them. I'm like, every day I inch a little bit closer, man. I just want to chop these damn things off, but no, they're still hanging in for now.
Is it that they're itchy? Like, what's the fucking problem?
No, it's just, I never had to tie my hair up before, man. Like, stuff that I do, like when I'm in the gym or something like that, I gotta like actually take a hair tie my hair back. I'm just like, it's just too much.
You're talking to two bald motherfuckers who have no idea what you're talking about right now.
I will say this. Once upon a time, I actually did have hair. Mm-hmm. And one day, I got rid of it, and it's never come back. Like, I don't...
You don't want to deal with it?
No. And I did it, it wasn't... Like, I'm bald by choice.
Okay.
Because once upon a time, I used to have hair, and that shit was such a pain in the ass to take care of. And one day, I just woke up and was like, this shit's got to go. and it's been gone ever since, and I don't miss it one bit.
So if you let that shit grow, you would grow it, like.
Yeah, it would grow.
Do you have any bald? Do you know if you got a bald spot or something going, or are you good to go?
Not that I know of, but I mean, you're talking about like I was like barely maybe 20 years old when I took the clippers to this shit.
Right.
So, you know, I haven't had significant amount of hair in 30 years.
Well, when Hans met me,
I was bald once. I tried to cut my own hair, and then I had like a LeBron James hairline. So I was like, all right, yeah, I gotta get rid of this thing. And then it didn't grow back for like 6 months, and I was like scared. I was like, all right, I guess I'm bald now because it just didn't grow back. It was super patchy, and I was like, all right, whatever, I guess I'm bald. Then it ended up growing back, but yeah, I'll never do that again. Try to get myself a haircut. It was the worst idea. I just didn't feel like making an appointment to go to a barbershop. So I was like, all right, I can do this myself. And there's a reason why we pay barbers. So,
so actually, when both of y'all met me, because it was basically around the same time, my hair had already started giving up the fight. Like, it was already like just kind of creeping away. I mean, I'm talking, I was like 19 when I started having actual hair loss.
Wow.
So everybody that's known me has known me with like minimal hair. If you watch the old fucking DVDs from Hellfest, even like 2003, 2002, maybe something like that, you'll catch glimpses of me out there just smashing kids. And like in one of the sets, my hat fell off because I always used to wear a hat because it covered up the fact that I was going bald. And it was like, yo, I should have shaved my head before I went up to this fest. But, you know, like 22-year-old, 3-year-old me, or however old I was at the time, was just not thinking about like, I've never been like a super like grooming person. Like, I don't care if I'm, you know, neck beard and shit. It doesn't matter. So I just went up to the show and I didn't think about like, yo, I should, like, they're going to be filming this shit and you're going to look like an asshole for the rest of your life.
Oh, man.
Yeah, bald.
I remember those days.
I'm permanently bald, bruh. It's never coming back. It gave up. So,
Gary, man, I got to ask you, bro, before we get anything, man. What's up with all the white anger lately? I feel like every time I turn to something on social media or the news, it's like maybe you can go ahead.
I'll give you a simple answer to that question, and as a total disclaimer, this is not my answer to this question, but this is the mentality. Y'all black people are taking shit away from white people.
What?
For good fucking reason.
Now, what that is, I don't fucking know. But that's the logic behind what these people are thinking, because everything that goes on in this country, everybody thinks that for people to get something, that means they have to take something away from somebody else. So it's all the minority's fault. And that's the logic. And that's why all this bullshit goes on with why they're so angry about Black Lives Matter and why they're so angry about the idea of like a $15 minimum wage. Because the logic is that, hey, if I got to give you a $15 minimum wage, that means that I got to lose something, right? Which is the dumbest fucking logic you've ever heard. But we're talking about people that believe in Jewish space lasers and, you know, QAnon. So, you know, so the plot's already fucking lost as far as I'm concerned. But like, but that's the logic of it. And it sounds stupid. And there's a simple reason why it sounds stupid, because it is.
So I saw like a couple skilled labor type people posting that if we give, you know, the people who make minimum or close to minimum wage $15 an hour, then what incentive is there for me to be skilled labor making $15 or $16 an hour? And I'm thinking to myself, you're the one that's underpaid too. Like, let's be serious here. If we bump these people up to $15, I think that's a great plan because it will help everybody be able to afford more. But it should also trickle down because you're probably underpaid too. Across the board, everyone is underpaid in comparison to the people who are actually raking in money. There is no equity amongst the whole gamut.
Right.
So, like, we're all getting fucked. And
See, but
you just think that we should continue to fuck the people all the way at the bottom, and, you know, they got to work literally 60 hours a week to be able to just barely afford an apartment? That's fucked up.
well,
It's like $15 an hour after taxes.
It still ain't shit.
You're back down to like $8-9 anyway.
right.
So what can we afford with a $15 an hour minimum wage in a country that's, you know, the cost of living has gone up exponentially over the last like 15-20 years, as opposed to the 1980s. So what's a $15 minimum wage really doing, you know, for people other than, yeah, on paper it's, oh yeah, it looks good, but I mean, you take away taxes, you're right back down to, like I said, you know, $8-9 an hour.
I mean, here's what drives me crazy. We've gotten to the point where people are so brainwashed that instead of trying to up themselves, because just like Len said, just like you guys said, it's like, okay, yeah, then these skilled labor jobs, like, they could ask for more money or instead of complaining. Right. We've gotten to the point where these people are so brainwashed that here they are trying to explain why people shouldn't have something instead of trying to get some shit themselves. Like, they should be like, yeah, let's all get more money. But instead, they're so lost that the logic now, and this is why I had that answer for Yohannes, the logic now is, well, they shouldn't have it because then somehow it affects other people. Like,
I mean, do you think what it is that they're thinking that they're happy with what they have, and the idea that anyone else would have as much as them or could encroach on them having what they have is just too much? It's like a step too far? Is that what you're saying?
That's certainly part of the problem, especially when you get to the, you know, the people that have a lot of money and are the ones that are hoarding it. Because the truth is, and this is where the whole thing gets fucked up, and I've talked about this on here many times with the deregulation stuff. Ideally, somebody will end up taking a cut in their profits, but because nothing is regulated, these people will just, in the end, corporate is going to find a way to make sure that that money comes out of the bottom.
Well, I mean, they've already started doing that. So you go to the grocery store, it's much cheaper to have me check myself out, right, and you run one person looking at 6 registers than to have one person on one register. Oh, so every time I go to the grocery store now, I notice that there are more and more and more checkout stands that have 2 and 3 stations and nobody basically running the fucking hen house. Like, you just do whatever you want in there.
Let me give you an even better illustration of that. They had passed a law. Now, this $15 minimum wage that we're talking about is at the federal level, because the federal minimum wage hasn't changed since when?
Oh, God. I don't know. I don't even remember when the last change was.
It's been the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour.
Right.
And it's been there since 2009, according to what I just looked up.
Which is really not even that much different than when I started working. The federal minimum wage was $5.75. So it's gone up $1.50 since 1992.
Right. Well, the other thing though,
that's ridiculous.
The other thing here, though, is that obviously localities and states can set their own minimum wage. They're not held to that federal. So New York, the minimum wage is considerably higher. I'm looking it up because I don't even know off the top of my head. New York's minimum wage in New York City is $10.50 as of 2016.
Still, you can't do shit in New York City for $10.
And that's if you work for a small employer. For larger employers of 11 people or more, it goes up to $11. But here's the thing, and this is what I was going to use to illustrate this point. They passed a thing a while ago that fast food workers minimum wage went up to 15, which is something that a lot of people fought for. I have issues with it simply because I think a lot of those jobs are starter jobs for teenagers, and I think that it's going to upset the flow of things because, I mean, I never worked a fast food job, but most people that I know, including family members, a lot of people, like their first job was like McDonald's or something. You start paying them the higher wage, people are going to stay there. And then you don't have that turnover, so now suddenly there's no jobs for the teenagers. But that's not even my point. That's a whole other tangent that, you know, people will probably argue with me about if they want to. But my point is this: when they passed that minimum wage for fast food workers in New York, you know what started happening? Just like you were talking about with the self-checkout. You ever go into a food place like a McDonald's or a Burger King or something?
They have a whole bunch of digital machines now.
Yeah, they have the touchscreen kiosk. All of a sudden, those started popping up everywhere in New York because, you know, they wanted to raise the minimum wage. So the idea is, well, hey, they want to raise the minimum wage, then I'll just reduce the number of people that work here.
Still, because same physical cost, and the amount that it costs to keep up the machine is significantly less than paying for someone all year.
Now,
so let me just throw a little caveat in here. Yohannes, I used to work in Yardley because my office was there, but we've been home officially for a year. But I used to go to a grocery store that's literally around the corner from my office. And one day I went in there, got all my shit, and I was like standing there. I'm like, do I go through the line or do I check out myself? Do I go through the line or do I check out I was like, fuck it, I'll check out myself. So I check out, and I'm walking outside, and this minimum wage guy who works at the grocery store, young kid, probably 18 or less, comes running out of the store. Sir, you better stop right there. And I'm like, whoa, what's up? And he was like, you never checked out and you stole all that stuff. And I was like, the fuck I did? Do you want to see my fucking receipt right now? And he's like, well, the machine is saying you didn't check out. And I was like, well, you were looking at the white lady who left her shit right there. That wasn't me. So you got all these people that are like trying to change the way that things work, and they're about to get somebody's ass whooped because I was on the edge. I was already having a bad day, and now he's threatening me with the police in Yardley. I'm like, yo, you need to chill because I paid. So I pulled my receipt out and I was like, read it. And he's like looking at it, and I'm like, look in the bag. I was like, you see anything that's out of whack? And I was like, you better get yourself right because I'm calling your manager when I get back to my office. So I did not see him there another time after that.
Wow.
I got similar story, Len. My wife's birthday was in the beginning of the month, March 4th, and she likes, this vegan carrot cake from Whole Foods. So I called, ordered it, and there's a Whole Foods up on South Street.
Okay.
So I went up there, picked up the cake, and again I went through because the line was really, really long, and I went through the self checkout. I went through the self checkout. Now I bought beer right before I went and got the cake, but the lady she said, "You want a bag?" I was like, "No, I don't need a bag." She handed me my receipt. I took it. I paid for the cake, paid for the other thing. I forgot what else I picked up. As I'm walking out the door, this woman grabs my the hoodie I'm wearing now. She grabbed my hoodie and was like, "Sir, you got to pay for that beer." I was like, "I already did." And she's like, "No, you didn't." I was like, "Well, I pointed toward where they had the alcohol." I was like, "Well, that woman back there rang me up. Here's my receipt." She snatches the receipt from me, looks at it, and was like, "This doesn't have beer on it." And I snatched it back from her. I was like, "Right there. It said the 6-pack of Sam Adams, the Boston Lager is right there." And she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, sir." I was like, "All right, well, you're gonna be really sorry when I go home and call your manager and get your ass fired." But I was like, "Are you fucking kidding right now? Like, I'm gonna walking. I'm like, I'm going to risk going to jail for a 6-pack of Sam Adams. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
In my bag, I had jelly, butter, cranberry juice, and bread. That's it. And you think I'm trying to steal that?
That's the makings of a big party right there.
That's called breakfast at work. Toast. That's toast and cranberry juice all week. Like, don't fuck with me on a Monday morning at like 7:30. Like, I'm really not in the mood at that point.
See,
And
but
then the thing, when I picked up the cake, I was like trying to surprise my wife. I was trying to make it real slick. And then this lady's put me in a bad mood. I was like, all right, man, I'm about to freak out in the store. I gotta leave.
Yep.
But
and
like,
you can't freak out in the store. Can we talk about that for a minute?
Well, but I was just going to say that like they're lucky that they got you guys, because you guys are like, well, I'm just going to call your manager. Like, there's plenty of other people that will be like, yo, we could talk about this outside.
I was already outside.
Like, the thing about the Whole Foods on South Street, it's connected to a precinct. Yeah,
Yep.
the police station. So I was there. If I act up in here, it probably won't be good for me. So I was like, I gotta get out of here before I say something stupid and get myself in trouble.
Yo, can we talk about this for 1 minute? So, like, there's a thing out there where they say that black women can't be angry at work or anywhere else because they get the idea of being the angry black woman, which it is 100% true, and I'm not trying to argue that. But for me, for you, Yohannes, the idea of the angry black man is basically immediate death. If I start wilding out because I'm mad, nobody wants to hear about why I'm mad. They just want to put me down.
Right.
I'm not allowed to be mad. Like, I have to temper myself even at work. When somebody gets real stupid with me and I want to call them out, I can't even call them out because it's never going to work out in my favor.
I wish that I thought about this and had said something to you guys about this, knowing that the show was going to happen. Have either of you guys watched episode 1 of that Real World Reunion?
Not yet. I haven't watched it yet.
Dude, you got to watch it, because I'm not going to spoil it, but, I know that dude, Kevin, a lot of people thought that dude was a total asshole, and to a point he was back in the original show.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that they talk about in this reunion, the first episode, and they're 100% right,
is how they cut that shit together to make him look bad.
Not even that. Exactly what you guys are talking about, because he admits that he came on too strong, but back then he talked about it. He talked about, like, oh, I'm a black man. As soon as I get angry, people are ready to call the cops. Like, people get scared. People feel threatened. And it's exactly what you guys are talking about. And one of the things that they talk about on there, and it's not even him talking about it, it's the other people in the house talking about it, is the fact that, here he was talking all that shit in, what was that, 92?
Yeah, 91, 92.
And Len, you and I discussed it from our very first episode. Like,
ain't a damn thing changed.
Ain't a damn thing changed. And they big him up because they're like, yo, we had those conversations back then. Nobody was having those conversations back then. And Heather was the one that said it, but then the other ones backed it up. They were like, listen, he was talking all that angry shit and saying that people immediately feel threatened and all this other stuff. But where's the lie?
It don't exist.
That was, Jesus Christ, that was 30 years ago at this point? Almost 30 years ago?
I think about me too, and my wife gets kind of paranoid because I carry. So the last thing I need is to get pulled over, which has happened to me. Luckily, the cop was cool, but you get pulled over by the wrong person. Next thing you know, get your hands out of your pocket type thing, and something like that could happen. But the one time I did get pulled over, luckily, like I said, cop was cool. I was on my way to work and I was late, and he said I failed.
Wait, a black man late? Come on.
Well, I was running late, and he said I didn't yield. So he pulls me over, gave him all my information, made sure both hands were outside the window. When I turned the car off, I put my keys on the roof of on top of my car, both my hands outside the window, And he's like, do you know why I pulled you over? I was like, no, officer, going through the whole spiel. And he's like, license, registration, proof of insurance. I was like, officer, I'm not going to lie to you. My wallet is in my pocket, and it's right next to my gun. And I do not want anything to go. I was like, you're more than welcome to go in my pocket yourself, but I'm not going there. He was like, all right, I appreciate that. So he pulled me out of the car. He took my wallet out. He was like, oh, appreciate you being honest with me. And I'm not going to lie to you, man. I was like, this even though I did everything I thought was right, back of my head, I'm like, this shit still could go sideways.
Oh, sure.
One wrong move.
Right. I was still like super hyper vigilant. I was like, all right, well, I told him I had a gun on me. I told him my hands are up above my head to give him no reason to think like, he had to be in fear of his life. But like I said, he was real cool about it. He took my permit. He ran and made sure it was still valid. And he didn't write me a ticket or anything like that. He just told me to be careful next time. And he was super cool. But again, it was just that I was
but
still.
you got the one super cool fucking cop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because listen. Straight up, they're out there, and I won't say all of them, obviously, because some of them, it's a problem, but it's not every one of them that's doing this. But like, they're out there shooting people for less. You know what I mean? So like, you could easily get in some real trouble.
Yeah, and I just read an article apparently from 2006 to 2016. The FBI's is saying like white supremacist groups are infiltrating law enforcement now.
Now?
No. Really?
But that's something like no one's talking. Like it's crazy. Like this.
Well,
this hasn't been a bigger issue.
They're talking about it now, but in certain circles, they've been talking about that shit for years.
Hey.
And it's just funny because it took some bullshit whack insurrection at the Capitol for people to finally start really talking about it.
Let's just put it again, 1991. So we were talking about Kevin from the real world.
Yep.
Let's say 1991, 92. That's when Rage Against the Machine's record came out, and one of the lyrics on there is, "Some of those who work forces are the same that burn crosses."
Yeah.
He's been talking about it for 30 years, right out in the open. It ain't nothing new.
And that's why that's why I laugh, because then suddenly they do these investigations and they say, oh, well, there's a surprising number of people that were at the Capitol that work law enforcement and also have ties to white supremacy. It's like, no shit.
But Len, when you mentioned that rage, you mentioned killing in the name of. I don't know if I posted on Facebook this. It was like some Trump supporters. The lady had a Blue Lives Matter flag, singing that song, and I was like, she doesn't understand that it's about police brutality, right?
Yeah. Well,
but they're not like. You gotta imagine that a lot of these people are only working with 4 brain cells, and they're not even like touching; they're just floating in there, so they have no concept of what they're talking about.
And I wasn't sure whether or not to like be sad or just laugh. I mean, I did laugh because it was hilarious, but I was like, did this lady read the lyrics of this song, or did anybody in this crowd? Like, this is completely the antithesis of what they're,
those are the same people that are wearing Punisher skulls, which drives me fucking insane, because I'm a diehard. I mean, you know me, I'm a comic book guy. I'm a diehard Punisher fan, and I can't fuck with anything related to the Punisher anymore. As far as like, I used to have like a Punisher T-shirt and all this other. I can't have any of that now, because all of a sudden they've decided that's the image that they want to use, which doesn't even make any sense, because the Punisher was a fucking vigilante.
Yep.
Like, yeah, he didn't have a side. He was just a He was.
Why are you suddenly using, like, that's everything that you're against? But all of a sudden they decided to co-opt that imagery, and now I can't even wear a Punisher shirt now, thanks to these clowns. Because all of a sudden people look at me like I'm a fucking Republican. It's like, no. Not
well, it doesn't help wandering around with a bald head.
That's true. And looking white, and but yeah, I mean, these people, they take this stuff and like they don't even understand how this stuff works, but they just decided to get into it. Like how many people, like, you saw all these stories about people suddenly being upset that they found out what Rage Against the Machine supports. It's like,
Like, where
Hello?
were you?
Yeah, like, get your head out of your ass for 5 minutes. Like, that, because, I mean, Jesus Christ, like you said, first Rage album came out in, what, 92?
Yeah.
So, like, that's just been flying around, and it's not like they were on some subtle shit either.
No.
No, they're pretty, Jack was pretty vocal about, his support for me, Abdul-Jabbar,
Yeah.
He's been pretty, like, police brutality in California, especially LAPD. He's been, like, I've watched stuff on YouTube, him and the rest of the band were just like, well, yeah, this is how we feel. That's not like, it is back in the 90s, like you said, in the early 90s. I remember MTV, what did they kick him off the, was it Headbangers Ball? Because they played a set and they mentioned something about John McCain because he was running for president during that time. And they never had him back on again.
They didn't suffer from it. let's just be serious.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they were like using metaphors and shit like that. They were pretty blatant about what they were about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't like some hidden meaning in a song or some shit. Like, they were open about it. And all of a sudden now, 30 years later, people finally figured it out because they actually listened to the lyrics. Like, you people got to get your shit together.
And not just them, like, Public Enemy. A lot of bands, were conscious shit back in the day.
Well, that's the other thing, they're like, oh, wait, the dudes from Rage are minorities?
Oh, yeah, right. Tom Morello, yeah, and Zach, yeah. It's weird.
Yo, my favorite,
like,
though.
Public Enemy, okay, they're black, like, but like, oh, wait, the dude from Rage is not white? Oh, God damn it.
One of my favorites is when people try to question Tom Morello on why he would be saying anything about political stuff. And he's like, oh, the guy with the political science degree been in a fucking band that's
guy
been
that used to work for politicians.
Yeah. Well, we're like, do some research before you start calling people out, because you're going to get clowned.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same thing. It's like you people end up... And this is why it's hard to take a lot of them seriously, because you people just come out with such dumb shit. You obviously didn't do your homework. You obviously didn't pay attention. You're just spouting off shit, not even understanding, like, the meaning behind it or anything. And this is why we clown you.
At all times.
Yeah, and this is why we don't take you serious. Like, besides the fact that y'all motherfuckers are talking about Jewish space lasers and like satanic pedophile cults, like
that don't even exist.
That don't even exist.
The whole shit with the pizza place is just.
Oh, that's what I was just gonna say. That, like, the whole basement of the pizza place, like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yo,
this is
you should have. They should have just went there and got pizza. Just go get pizza. That's it. Just chill and eat some pizza and think about yourself, because clearly you're operating all wrong and you need to just chill.
And listen, by the way, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh well, that pizza place thing wasn't a big deal, blah blah blah, which I'm sure you're not, because if you know anything about this show, if you're down with that shit, you're not listening to the show. Or like, somebody showed up at that pizza place with a fucking gun, okay? Mm-hmm. Like, it's not a joke. Like, people were sitting in that pizza place and somebody showed up strapped. Like, I'm here to find the pedophiles in the basement. Like, y'all motherfuckers are crazy. You're crazy. There's no two ways about it. There's no buts. There's no, like, explaining it away. Like, that shit is nuts. Jewish space lasers is nuts.
So let me ask you this, and it's for both of you, and it's kind of the dovetail on the question that Yohannes brought up from the start. Why is it that it's overwhelmingly a lot of white people that think this way, and very few, in comparison, people of any sort of minority that think this way? Cubans not included.
Let Yohannes go first.
Bro, I don't know where to even start. I honestly don't I mean, I guess a lot of it had to do with just exposure via the internet, right? It's just if that's something, because everyone has their own beliefs. Everyone, you're only going to gravitate towards, well, not you, but most people are going to gravitate towards things that they believe to be true. Like someone who, watches Alex Jones and takes every word he says to be true, or now everything that you associate with Alex Jones, you're going to look on the internet and, Google, click, boom, oh yeah, he was right because, conservative, cuckparty.com said Alex Jones was right. So just feeding into that narrative that they just saw this random psycho from Texas talking about on the show, and it goes for both sides, and just bringing up my wife again, we don't agree on. I mean, there's very few things we agree to politically, but I mean, we're both reasonable people, and we can understand one side's arguments as opposed to the other. Yeah, we have our own separate beliefs, but we can actually sit down with someone and have a conversation and say, okay, now I understand what you're talking about. Yeah. But just to go to that extreme, to me, I really don't know. I'm just going to chop it up to just overexposure to it. It's like when you talk to, when Timothy McVeigh, when he was, radicalized through the Ruby Ridge incident in Waco, like he was reading the Turner Diaries. And now, you can still get, I looked on Amazon last night, you can get the Turner Diaries on Amazon. Yeah. It was like, it's just, it's one click away and then it's right at your door. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just it's everywhere at this point.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And, Gary and I have had this conversation that's what we need to really be worried about is another Timothy McVeigh situation, because the potential for it has grown exponentially with the texture of America over the course of the last, I'm going to call it 12 years. So with with Obama's first and second term, and then the ratcheting up with Trump, there are people that are following these things that may have never found it before and have been potentially radicalized, and somebody needs to pull a list of who ordered the fucking Turner Diaries and things like that off of Amazon, and cross-reference that with violence that's happened and start to pinpoint on some people that might need an intervention.
But you see, doing that infringes on people's freedoms, just like masks.
I don't even want to talk about the masks thing.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing with all of this. You've got all these people out there, and it's funny because, and this has been our subject since we started this show. You've got so many people out there, and there's so much information out there, but everybody falls into the algorithm, and everybody falls into their holes where, like Yohannes said, people just look at what they want to look at and what feeds their own narrative. Nobody's really open-minded anymore necessarily. I shouldn't say nobody, but the majority. They just fall into their own hole based on what they're already into, and a lot of them just continue to follow that pathway. And I think part of the reason why it's different for minorities is that, I shouldn't even say that, because to be honest with you, I've run into minorities that think that same way.
Oh, I'm not saying that it's not like
you think it's crazy, but listen, all jokes aside, we talked about it before, like when we had Jeff on, like, blacks for Trump and all kinds of shit. I think one of the things that's very different, and it's made it easy now because you see it with the way things were with Trump, and he's talking about anarchist cities and all that shit. There's a lot of minorities in urban areas, New York City, Philadelphia, etc. And with Trump, he started to try and punish those areas because there were minorities there, and they look at it differently. And a lot of minorities see it differently because they're in those urban areas. And in the end, it's all about knowledge and experience, because you look at things differently because you grew up around different types of people. When you're on that farm, you don't fuck with nobody. When you're out in the sticks, the only place you see people is at Walmart, and they look just like people of Walmart. So
which is a wonderful,
yes.
horrible time at the
Yes.
same time.
Amazing website.
Yeah. So you're talking about what it comes down to is something that I've always talked about, which is people are scared of what they don't know. 9 times out of 10, the people that hate gay people have never actually spoken to a gay person.
Or they're gay themselves and they just haven't accepted it.
Well,
one or the other.
Yeah, there's a whole other part of it there. But a lot of times, whether it's gay or whether it's black or whether it's Asian or whether it's whatever other, whether it's a different, I don't want to say gender, but a different type of person, whether it's because of color or whatever, these people are scared because they've never had any exposure to them. And funny enough, tie it back in, talking about the real world. They got the girl from Alabama up in there. She's exposed to all, these different personalities that she was never exposed to before.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely had never seen anything like Heather B before.
Exactly. So this is what happens, because I used to see it all the time. Listen, when I used to work at Tower Records, we were right in the middle of Greenwich Village. I worked with all kinds of people: gay, straight, trans, white, black, yellow, purple, green, everything. And I used to see a lot of people exposed to new stuff because we were right in the middle of NYU. So you had all these NYU students that just started classes at NYU and they want to get a job. So, hey, I'll go work at Tower. That'll be cool. And you're seeing them be exposed to all kinds of new experiences.
Shit they ain't never even thought about before.
Because listen, if they were going somewhere else, that's one thing. But you're right in the middle of the village. You're in the middle of all kinds of different cultures. Everything from like I said, like gay and trans culture to like squatters and punk rockers, all in this area. So all these people were exposed to so many different things, and that's what changes your outlook as a person. Because listen, look at something like American History X. Dude hated black people. He's in jail, ends up changing the way he looks at things because he actually interacted with a black person
and figured out that hey,
I
was wrong. I was looking at this the wrong way.
Exactly. And that's the way it is for a lot of people. And you see it. There's always been stories about stuff like that. But that's the root of the problem with what's going on now. And it's the same thing, like I said, about people who like being ignorant, and how I always told my kids, like, there's people that just are happy to be ignorant in a lot of ways. People are ignorant about stuff like that. And the best thing for them is education. And that's why you see it. Look at communist countries, okay? Look at how a place like China or North Korea controls access to the internet.
Yeah, because they don't want the people to have the knowledge.
Exactly. And that knowledge is the biggest thing.
Well, the knowledge will set you free. When you have
that knowledge, that opens up your world. And that's why it's crazy talking about why people are so angry, why people look at things this way and that way. A lot of it is just straight ignorance. They just don't know what real life is like outside their bubble. Why do you think they're fighting the minimum wage? Because who benefits from the minimum wage?
The people on the bottom.
Right. And it just so happens, because of the way the system is, that I won't say all the people on the bottom, but a lot of the people on the bottom have darker skin.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, fuck those people on the bottom, because I don't want them getting ahead, because then that means that something's going to get taken away from me. What's going to get taken away from you? I don't know. They're going to take something away from me.
Yeah, but what's crazy is that, Reagan introduced Reaganomics back in the 80s, trickle-down economics, and it hasn't worked.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And these people are still pushing it like, rising tides, all boats benefit, or whatever that stupid-ass saying is. Or rising tides lift all boats. It's like, nah, dude, there are some boats
my shit's flooded. My shit's flooded.
Some boats sink with rising tides, and this idea that, if this guy on the top is making, $55, $100 million a year, that wealth's going to trickle down. It's like, no, he's going to find more ways to save more money and make more money. Whether it's cutting hours, cutting benefits, cutting people. They're always going to try and find a way to get more. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. He's like he works with special needs kids. He's a psychologist, and I was just like, Jeff, people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, guys who have more money than people are on a planet. Like, what drives them to want more? Like, Jeff Bezos has upwards of $160 billion. Like, why does he need more money? He's like, it's a form of narcissism. He wants to be that guy on the top. He wants to be the dude that can say, yeah, I'm the richest dude in the history of the world. My company's $1 trillion company. And it's just a back and forth game with people at that level of success that they just want to be the guy. He said it's like no different than an athlete. Like, Michael Jordan was the guy, and he was competitive, and he wanted to be the guy. It's no different than guys in business. So I'm like, if I was worth $100 billion, I'd say I won, and I'd be like, maybe I can, just go away for a little while. But I don't know. I just feel like people who have that much, I just don't get why they need more. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, there's a thing with that, and I had a friend that had an issue with a family member one time, and it came up because they had a dispute over money, and it was very weird to me because he said to me, this guy has an issue. He's got a disease, and that disease is money. That it's just it gets to the point where some people just have this craving that they have to just amass more no matter what. He said it was like a disease. It's like the same way you watch a zombie movie and they want brains. He said this dude is like that, but with loot. That it's just gotta have it no matter what. Like it's like being an addict, but you're not addicted to crack or pills or something. You're addicted to that money, and you'll do anything to get it. You'll fuck over anybody, your own family. It doesn't matter, just to get that money. And I thought it was the craziest thing, but the stories that he told me, and then since then I've been more conscious of it, and I see so many people that suffer from that same situation, that they just gotta have it no matter what, and they'll screw over their own mother to get extra money. So, and that's how a lot of people are. And by the way, I don't know if you were aware, the trickle down thing, we were just talking about that a couple weeks ago. We had a few conversations about it in recent time. And that goes back to what I said about deregulation, because that really started in the Reagan years with that mentality, and it's just proven without a doubt that shit does not work, and that set the stage for where we are now.
It actually does work, but it doesn't work the way that they say it should. It only works for the people at the top.
That's what I mean.
As I said, you just keep getting a bigger and bigger bucket. You're like, fuck, the bucket's full. What do I do? Well, I'm going to get a big trash can. Oh, shit, the trash can's full. Get the fucking the tanker. And then you're just like, you know what? We're just going to keep funneling all the money to us. Fuck them. Yeah, they only get the little splash out. They're not going to get... There's no trickle. It's just like a little splash.
Right. And that's why I think the idea of capitalism... That's why what we have here is not capitalism.
No, it's not.
Capitalism is based on the idea that everybody starts at the same point, and if you work your ass off, you'll be rewarded, because that's what we were all taught when we were kids. And now, listen, you work your ass off and, hey, maybe you'll be able to buy a car. Maybe.
Maybe, if you're lucky.
Maybe.
So I just looked up the 10 richest people in the world, but I'll just stick with the top 5. And this is based on a report from January 25th of this year. So it's actually Elon Musk. He's number 1 with $1.97 billion. What do you do with $197 billion? What do you do with $197 billion? Like, I'm excited, like, legitimately excited when I go into the drawer in my house, or like I'm thinking about the studio money I saved up, and I'm like, I got $2,000. What can I buy? I'm like, yo, I got $2,000. We're about to party, and this dude has $200 billion. Like, what do you do with all that kind of money? I don't even have a concept.
I found $5 the other day in my coat pocket, and that I didn't know I even had, and I had a $20 bill in my wallet. So I was like, yo, I could get $25 worth of gas today. I don't have to get 20.
Right.
I was just saying, I'll get excited if I find an extra 20.
I'm just saying, like, I save up and I save up and I save up. I'm not even just talking about the time where you go to the laundry and you're like, shit, I found $5. We good today.
Right.
Like, I'm not talking about those. I'm just talking about, like, I spent weeks and months saving so that I could buy something new for the studio, and I'm like excited to spend this money that I've worked my ass off to get to. And this dude's just like, I mean, it's not that he's not doing anything, because clearly he must be doing something, but $200 billion? Like, that's a lot of goddamn money.
It's crazy. I mean, I will say this, at least he is doing some things that are actually beneficial to other people, like electric cars and all the space stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So at least he's doing something and not just sitting on his ass. He's actually trying to make moves in other directions. And
Amazon is just as, especially considering we're in the middle of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Now, where he fucked up is not by not, like, paying the people who are working for him the right wages, and not providing health insurance like he should, etc. But the service he provides has been key throughout the coronavirus.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
So, like, he did a great thing and he did a fucked up thing at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some of these guys are doing certain things, but see, here's the problem now. The government doesn't want to get involved in trying to tax these guys because everybody's working together. But that's the best way to go, because the other idea would be to privatize certain things, like say Bill Gates decides to operate the New York City subway. People would freak the fuck out. Mm-hmm. There's an argument to be made that it might be a good thing because at least they're putting money into the community, but people would freak the fuck out. And, I could see pros and cons to it, but you don't really have a lot of choices because, like I said, they're never just going to flat out tax these people what they should be taxing them.
Yeah, they're just not going to.
They're not going to, because in the end, not to get onto another rant that I know I've done a million times before about the role of money in government, but all of these politicians all serve corporations. That's who they answer to. That's why they shot down the $15 minimum wage. That's why they're trying to find ways to get out of giving people money. But when it comes to giving corporations money, you see that shit flying out right quick.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like it's not even a discussion, especially, Trump's last term.
Right.
When, he raised the deficit like an extra $10 trillion.
Right.
And conservatives didn't say shit. It was like, oh, well, shit happens. That's basically kind of the attitude that I kind of got from their side.
Oh,
I think, bro, you're supposed to be the party of... And then Ted Cruz, he made some stupid-ass comment the other day. He's like, well, I'm concerned...
Get it right. His name is Rafael.
Was yesterday? And then he was like, oh, I'm concerned about the rising deficit. I'm like, oh, now you're concerned. Okay. I see where you're going with this.
Well,
Meanwhile, the family was trying to go to Cancun.
The
people
foot he
texting
put in
him
his
how-
mouth yesterday was saying that only illegal aliens were going to end up getting this money.
Yeah, and then I was like, wait a minute, people, even if they're illegal, like if they did happen to sneak over, they don't have social security numbers.
Right.
They don't
Get
they
shit.
can't get you can't even get a job at McDonald's without a social security number. Like you need that.
Right. You ain't getting money. Stop with the bullshit.
But that's the thing. They push all that stuff out there. Like what I said to you at the beginning, when you first asked me, it's the whole idea that to give somebody something, they got to take away something. They create this boogeyman, and everything gets blamed on the boogeyman. Whether it's, when Trump was talking about all those bad people coming from Mexico and all that horse shit, and now with the the illegal aliens are going to get all this money. Like,
just stop.
But yeah, here's the thing. Okay, the illegal aliens are going to get this money, so they cut it down. But what do? They change the threshold. So now, if you're making between 80 and 100,000 a year, you were able to get a check under Trump, but now you're not going to be able to get a check under Biden. But is that the illegal aliens making 90,000 a year?
Right.
No.
So what the fuck are you talking about? You're talking about completely different things here. So it's all. But the other problem is that people just fall right for all this bullshit because people don't use their own brains. They don't think for themselves, and they hear this bullshit about whatever boogeyman it is this week coming from Rafael, which is Ted Cruz's real name. If you people don't know, don't be fooled. Guy's a fucking asshole, and it's just it's just endless bullshit. It's bullshit. And people just fall right for it because people want to be spoon-fed. Tell me who to vote for. Tell me what to do because they watch some conservative bullshit and they take it all for gospel when meanwhile it's been proven over and over before and after Trump that these people are all spitting lies out like crazy. It's all proven false with 2 minutes of research. The voter fraud didn't happen.
Right. That was
all this other stuff isn't happening. Illegal aliens are not getting all the money. Like it's just one line of bullshit after another. But they breed such fear into people, and that's what it comes down to. And now that's why people are angry. That's why people are freaking out. This is all the recipe for this shit.
And what was that thing Trump said during his something about a caravan of people coming from like Honduras or something like that? They're going to come over and storm the border in Texas. I was like, dude, shut up. People believe. Yeah.
People believe anything.
But Gary, did you hear about this thing with kind of pivot real quick? Apparently, I don't know how true it is. You might be more in the know than I am about this, but the WWE is supposed to be bought by NBC since Vince sold them the rights to the network, apparently, for like $1 billion.
Let me give you a little background on that.
Yeah.
Before COVID, Vince had made a comment about how they were looking for a streaming partner, quote unquote. And the going idea, and it's not my idea, this was reported in places like Forbes magazine. The idea was that there was a lot of speculation that Vince was looking for a streaming partner, which would lead to a deal, which would eventually lead to a sale of the company. Because at that point, Amazon was the front runner, at least in speculation. A lot of people like Forbes and other, and I'm not talking like wrestling dirt sheet sites or something. I'm talking about like Forbes and Business Insider and places like that. We're talking about that deal and that would be Vince selling the company. And that was before COVID. Obviously, COVID happened, and COVID kind of changed everybody's plans for everything. But now, within the next couple of weeks, the WWE Network is going to fold into Peacock, which is NBC's streaming service. And all of the content that used to be on the WWE Network, including all the live pay-per-views and stuff like that, is all going to be on Peacock. Now, there's been no talk about anything further beyond that, like a sale or anything, but I think that is an easy way, that's an easy way to go. And obviously, I'm sure a lot of people are speculating on it. I've always said that eventually I think Vince is going to sell the company, and it's only a matter of time. And I think he might even pull a heel move and do it under the nose of his kids, just to be the ultimate asshole heel before he checks out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, man. Vince does some pretty... I mean, if I was a fly on the wall for some of those meetings he had behind closed doors, man, he's...
Oh, God.
He's a piece of shit, but
here's the other thing, too, with all that. COVID has hit Vince hard because obviously he can't have crowds. And obviously that hurts everything down the line, your merchandise sales, etc. But the other reason why it really hurt was, and just to feed into what you were saying about Vince being a scumbag, Vince made this deal to do shows in Saudi Arabia. And that deal was made either shortly before or shortly after that journalist got killed.
Right.
And if you follow recent news, there's definite ties there that implicate the Saudi royal family in that whole situation. But Vince doesn't care because, just like what we were talking about with people with the disease of money, that's Vince. Vince is like, I don't care about journalists getting killed. I don't care about people's civil rights. If the Saudis want to pay me, however many millions of dollars to go over there and have a show, then I'm going to do that because I want that money. And he hasn't been able to do that either. So that's been hurting him. So I think eventually he's just going to either reach a desperate point or he's just not going to give a fuck anymore and just sell the company. And he's got to do it soon because I think eventually the bubble's going to burst because he has done all this stock stuff and he's managed to convince people that this company is a lot bigger than it really is. And I think eventually people are just going to get wise that, people think this place sucks.
Well, does that fall into the territory of kind of how the UFC worked their last deal, going public, etc.? And they did it at the right time before everything burst on them, and everybody. There's no way they could get the amount of money they got then now.
No, but that's perfect analogy because that's where I was going to take it, because that's exactly what UFC did, and UFC timed it perfectly because you know what? As fans, do you guys think UFC now is worth anything close to what they were worth 10 years ago? 15 years ago?
Well, maybe 15 years ago, yeah. I think it's probably even at this point.
Well,
but
I'm thinking, when was their peak? Because when was the Ultimate Fighter? Because
Fighters, I would say 06.
My sense of time at this point,
but I don't think that they peaked. That was the start of the real climb. Was the original Ultimate Fighter? That's what kicked off the run. That
was 2005. But yeah, right. And that's why I'm using that as a reference, because when it came to mainstream exposure, that was the beginning of that serious climb.
Yeah, 2000. I would say 2010 was the peak.
Okay, and you're talking about 11 years now.
Right, but they stayed up for a good 5 or 6 years at that peak too. Right. So we're talking about a 5-year decline or so, and that 5-year decline coincides with about when they signed that contract to go the direction that they're in now. And sure, they've bounced around on different networks. They were on Fox for a little while. They're on ESPN now, which was a smart move on their part, because now when they have a pay-per-view, they just get paid. And it doesn't matter how many people buy the pay-per-view. I mean, it was honestly a fucking shark move to do it that way. They're getting a guaranteed amount of money no matter what. They know how much they're going to make. The issue is they just need to put the shows on. So that's how we got into this COVID situation where they're putting on shows when they probably shouldn't be putting on shows. But they're like, well, that's the only way we're going to make our money. And you know what? Money talks. It's just
Dana was cranking out pay-per-views like twice, four times, 4 times a month during, last year, and I was like, God damn, man. And just finding out more and more about the ESPN deal, I'm like, well, it kind of explains why now.
Yeah, well, they don't get paid. They don't get paid if they don't do the things. So they got to do the things. So that means they have to have the in-house shows to lead up to the pay-per-views, and then they have to the pay-per-views have to actually happen. Whether the pay-per-view has 8 fights on it, like one of the last ones did because everybody fell out due to COVID, or it's got 15 on it like the one that happened this past weekend because they backloaded it so in case people fell out they still had a full show. So then they're trying to jam 15 fights into a night. It is what it is. Yeah. But what I'm going to say is that much like the Disney situation saying to Gina Carano that basically giving her the statement like Smokey got from Big Worm, Dana said the same thing. Playing my money is like playing with my emotions. So he's gotta go ahead and do the shows because the money has to come in. Right. And if somebody has to die, then they gotta die.
Well, to tie it back to the Vince McMahon thing, that's why he wanted to make that deal. And by the way, a side effect of that deal, I believe, and I could be wrong, but tell me because I don't watch as much UFC as I used to. Do they release the numbers for the shows?
Not really anymore. No. I mean, you can get a trickle.
Yeah. Well, that's my point because once you take these things off of regular pay-per-view and you put them on a streaming service the way UFC does with ESPN or the way WWE does it with the network and now moving to Peacock, there's the advantages of that is that you don't have public numbers anymore. Yep. When you go through the regular pay-per-view companies, all of those numbers get out there. Now, with this, you're in total control of the numbers. So you know what? If you got a show that tanks, you don't have to tell anybody that it fucking tanked. If WrestleMania sells like shit, they don't care. You know why? Because you'll never know. Because they have control of those numbers. And that's an advantage they have in having a streaming deal like that.
So what I want to know is, with them switching to the Paramount deal, are they going to have the same problems that UFC tends to have with their streaming service on big nights? So people are like struggling to get a pay-per-view because apparently one of the bigger ones that happened recently, almost all of the West Coast could not buy into
it was the Conor Poirier.
Yeah, they couldn't buy in.
They couldn't buy in.
They're just sitting there and it's just scrolly wheel. That has never once happened when you bought it on the fucking TV. You clicked the button and the cable provider provided you the motherfucking thing you paid for.
I don't think that's going to happen with WWE simply because I don't think the demand is that high, which is messed up, but that's the way it is. I think, and this is one of the reasons why, like we were talking about, selling while the value is up there. I think eventually WWE is going to finally dive because Vince is a master bullshit artist, and the best comparison for him, as crazy as it is Donald Trump. You know how we talk about Trump doesn't have money? I think Vince is the same shit. I think, not that Vince doesn't have money, but I think Vince has overinflated the value of the company, and I think eventually that bubble's going to burst, and people are going to realize that they're not, the stock market is all a work anyway. We've talked about this before.
A full work.
Yeah. So who's a better worker than Vince McMahon? So he's been working people for years about the value of his company, and he makes these big deals with these big companies because they believe that his company is worth X amount. And just like anything else. Listen, you guys ever sell anything on eBay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Len, you buy and sell music equipment, so you know this. You could have a guitar that's worth $10,000, but how much is it really worth?
Whatever somebody's actually willing to pay you for it.
Exactly. So you can gas somebody up. I could tell you that this microphone that I'm on right now is worth $20,000 because somebody used it or something. It used to be in Landmine Studios. So
nobody don't want that shit.
So in the end, oh well, you know what? Let me tie this into something current, okay? Did you hear about the guy that started Twitter today?
No, I didn't hear about it today.
Nah, I didn't hear about that either.
All right. I'm going to pull up the news story just so I have all my facts straight. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey is selling his first tweet.
How do you sell a first tweet?
How do you sell a tweet?
I have no answer for that.
Yo, because I'm going to tell you right now. I've been on Twitter recently, and there are a lot of people like trying to sell things on Twitter, and I mean, there's a lot of links to Onlyfans and all kinds of other stuff on there. People are selling lots of stuff, so maybe I should sell my tweets.
Well, here's the thing. This is as of, well, let me see. They got a link here. Doesn't have any info. Okay. So, this news story was posted by MarketWatch, and this was last updated today at 3:41 p.m. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey is selling his first tweet. Bidding has reached $2.5 million.
Good Lord. For a tweet?
Just like you guys said, how does that work? I don't fucking know. Because
what do you get?
What are you going to do with this tweet? Like, I could take a screen capture of that tweet right now, and I could send it to you guys. What
I got it. It's free.
And I don't even have to pay no 2.5 mil. I could just take a screen capture and send it to you guys.
Yeah, so, I'm not sure what the fuck.
But that's my point, because here we are. Vince McMahon has convinced people that his company is worth however much it is, and he's selling stock and all this shit. He's working everybody, because just like buying this tweet, how much is it really worth? If you could find some sucker to pay 2.5 mil for a fucking tweet, he's going to sucker these companies into investing in his company, just like this NBC Peacock deal, just like what we're talking about with UFC. And eventually, the value is just going to go down because the value is really just inflated to begin with. The value it's just made up.
Now, where do you think that puts AEW now? Because I saw the big shows there now, Christian's there now. Like, they've been signing a lot of people from the WWE. Maybe they see the writing on the wall, or maybe eventually doesn't want to pay these guys anymore. I don't know what the deal is. But
I think that's a big part of it, because people have definitely talked about it and said that they felt disrespected. It's tough to say. The thing with AEW right now is that they're owned by Tony Khan. Well, him and his father own the Jacksonville Jaguars, right, and they own a couple other things. I know they own a soccer team. I don't see them trying to sell it off anytime soon. So I don't think the value of it really matters right now. I think in the end, with Vince, it's the same kind of thing that you see with a lot of corporations, which is that they're just trying to inflate their values so that they can sell it off to whoever is willing to pay for it and just make whatever money they can, and eventually the thing will just get lost in the shuffle. I used to work for a company years ago, a website, and they got bought by Grubhub, and they were operated separately as separate websites. It was another food delivery website, but they catered to the college crowd. They were called Campus Food.
I used to use Campus Food all the time because there's a college campus literally in my town. I drive past it. So I used Campus Food, not Grubhub, and then eventually they folded it in, and Campus Foods would just forward you right over to Grubhub anyway.
Yeah. Well, that happened, that happened after I had left, but they, like you said, and like I said, they operated separately. And then eventually they just got to the point where they were like, okay, we're folding this. And I knew people that still worked there, and eventually they gave them the option of either letting them go and giving them a nice severance, or, hey, if you want to move to Chicago, where Grubhub is, if you want to move to Chicago, we'll have a position for you in Chicago.
Not moving to Chicago.
Well, I mean, a couple of guys did. A couple of guys did. And you know, one in particular, we hung out with when I was in Chicago playing the Rumble. Okay. But this is what happens with all these corporations. They spend all this money, and they get that stuff, and eventually they just take the assets. In this case, with a WWE or a UFC, you've got a vast video library because UFC swallowed up how many other small companies.
Pride,
yeah, Strikeforce, Pride, WC, right.
Right. So they have all that video. So that's, you know, that's where your real value is. Everything else is just speculation and bullshit. For the most part, you know, you may have TV deals that factor into that. You may have talent deals that factor into that. Like for instance, when WCW folded and Vince bought WCW, there were some contracts that came with that. There were some guys that were signed to long-term contracts that were part of that deal.
And he screwed every single one of those people. Well,
some of those guys, they gave them options that they could either go and go to TV, or they could just stay at home, and they're still getting, it was a guaranteed contract. So a bunch of those guys, I think Ric Flair was one of them, they just sat home and let the money come in because that was their deal. So they bought it, and they couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
So that's what it was.
I think that happened with the UFC too when they bought Pride. Is that they bought this?
Oh, I'm sure.
Huge, when they bought Pride, they were just like, "Yo, these contracts are ridiculous." And like the contract with Fedor, with Minotauro had to get. When he had to restructure his deal with Crow Cop.
Right, but that happens. Listen, that happens with other sports too, because aren't the Mets still paying what's his name?
Yeah, they're still paying Bobby Bonilla.
Yeah, they're still paying Bobby Bonilla.
They're going to be paying Bobby Bonilla for another 10 years.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about. All these corporate mergers happen, and eventually it gets lost in the shuffle. And yeah, they probably take a loss on it, but if you're talking about a big enough company, they don't care. Like NBC buys WWE, they get the content. Even if WWE folds up as an organization, and they still have that content, you think they're going to feel a loss from that? We'll feel a loss as fans, but like corporate bean counters will be like, nah, we'll just fold them up.
Right.
That's all. They
I
don't
just did a quick look. Bobby Bonilla is going to get paid $1.19 million every July 1st, all the way through 2035.
Good for him. Good for him, man.
That's a 34-year payout. He quit baseball in 2001.
He quit baseball in 2001.
Set himself up.
We're in 2021, and you said what year?
35.
So he's got another
14 years.
He's got another 14. Oh my God!
Another $14 million come through.
If they were smart, they would just go to him with, try to renegotiate this contract and be like, "Here's $8 million, and we're done now."
Oh, I'm sure they've tried, and you know what?
I'm sure they've
probably like, "Yo, no,
if he's smart, he's like, nah, fuck y'all.
Pay me July 1st.
Yeah.
I'll see ya.
Just send me that check in July, son.
He's like, don't even send my lawyers this correspondence. Send it to me. I will tell you no, my damn self. Don't get me charged by my lawyer to send you a letter saying no.
Yeah, don't waste my time with these offers, man.
Of sports, man, I just saw Dak Prescott sign some crazy contract with the Cowboys. I don't know if you guys are following that. It's like a 4-year, $162 million deal, but he got like 130 something up front.
Oh my God!
Wow.
All the rest of his
ankle, he could blow his knee out tomorrow, right. And you got that money.
And that kind of shit happens. Some of these guys, they get hurt. I mean, that's happened, since I'm a hockey guy. Back in the day, oh my God, who was it? I'm spacing out his name now. I think it was Eric Lindros.
That's who I was going to say, Lindros, with the concussions and all that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, they signed him to a long-term deal, and he just kept getting bounced around. Eight concussions, and then he became a free agent. He barely played all the time he was under contract.
Now think about it. Who was the Legion? It was the Legion of Doom. Was it? It was him, Leclerc, and who else?
Oh God, I don't remember.
That wasn't like I wasn't that big into hockey, but I do remember them in the '90s. Like I forget
him,
the
Leclerc,
other.
and Renberg.
Renberg, that's who it was.
Yeah, I'm not a hockey guy at all.
I'm a hockey guy.
I think I'm less a hockey guy than I am even like a football guy.
Really?
But I'm not even a football guy. I just never got into either one of them.
I've always been a hockey guy, but that was that was when they played for the Flyers, and I fucking hated the Flyers.
I just like when the athletes get in trouble. That's one time I really pay attention, when they like go to jail and stuff like that.
So were you paying attention to Tiger Woods rolling his shit over, breaking both goddamn legs?
Like, dude, that guy, man. You're just hire a driver. Like, I don't understand.
I had that exact same conversation with somebody. Like, yo, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Yeah, just get a driver, man. You can afford it. You're worth a lot of money, man. Just, hey, man, here's $100. Take me to somewhere down the street. Give me something to eat.
What are you doing?
I think it was Andy. I went to dinner with Andy last week, and we were talking about it. We were like, yo, get a driver, bro. It's not that hard.
Dude, just get a driver. Same thing when he got popped, when he was cheating on his wife. It's like, bro, you don't have no one in your circle to give you like a little prepaid phone. Hey,
right.
Man, let me,
yeah.
Like, I was
get a little burner.
Yo,
letting his women like videotape you naked on their couches, and then your wife seeing it, and she busts out all your windows in your car.
Yo, who told you to take that girl to fucking Australia when you knew everybody was going to be there? Like, everybody was going to be there. What did you expect to happen?
Because that happened to Steve McNair. I don't know if you remember when he got shot in his sleep.
No.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, he had he was married. He had a little chick on the side he was dealing with. Then he had a chick on the side he was dealing with the side chick. And then the side chick found out, and she shot him in his sleep, and then killed herself.
Whew. Hey, you play them games. This is what you end up with.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah, bro, you couldn't. There has to be someone around that can help you manage this stuff.
You don't got a. You don't got a friend. You don't got a friend.
Oh man.
My man got shot in his sleep, man. I was like, poor guy. Poor guy.
Gotta be careful.
Ridiculous.
But did you guys watch the Saturday card for the UFC?
Yeah, I watched it.
I saw some highlights. That was it.
I watched it.
Yeah, I felt.
What did you think of what you saw?
Well, I ended up watching it the next morning, like highlights of the fights. I thought they were really good. The Peter Yan fight, I didn't. So I was watching this. Apparently, because DC and Joe Rogan were talking about, like, apparently Peter Yan's corner was yelling for him to throw that knee when Aljamain was when he was down, because they were talking in Russian, and UFC has translators for everything now. He said one of the translators was saying that they were telling him to throw that knee. That's why he did it.
Hey, you got to
know. He was clearly down. Right.
My thing is, if you were watching that fight, and obviously we've skipped over a number of fights that happened before it, but nothing really to talk about. If you were watching that fight, you heard the ref say, "Hey, he's a downed opponent." He said that. He's down. And then within like 30 seconds, bam, knee right to the head. Do I think that Aljo was milking it? Yes. Do I think that he had the right to milk it? Yes.
Yeah, I would do the same thing. Yeah, I would.
Like whatever.
My belt, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I'm done with this fight now. I was already losing. I'm definitely compromised. I might not be like finished, but I'm definitely not going to fight nearly as well as I was. Let me get out of here right now. We can run this back later.
Yeah. I don't blame him for what he did. Like, if that happened to me, I'll probably do the same thing too. So I can't even hate on him taking advantage of that situation.
If I'm at a show and somebody kicked me in the leg, I'm like, all right, I'm good. We're going home right now, right? We're done. Game is over.
Speaking of shows, man, what do you guys think is going to happen with that now? You think there's Going to be like, this is hardcore this summer, or?
Well, I don't. Let's finish the UFC thing real quick. So
Okay.
before we jump on to that, Amanda Nunes could probably be in the top 10, if not the top 5, in the men's featherweight division.
Oof. I don't disagree. That's crazy
I
to think
think-
And
about.
definitely
I don't-
in the top 5 of the men's bantamweight division.
I do not
But
disagree.
Well, I don't like what Amanda Nunes. One, of course, she's a great fighter and she deserves all the recognition that she's getting, but she's also defended her belt in both weight classes,
Yep.
which a lot of these champs don't do. Like Conor McGregor never defended any of his belts.
At all. Never
he
even
had-
got a sniff of defending. Oh,
You know what I'm saying? And Amanda has defended her belt multiple times in both weight classes, so it's like,
she is a bad
gotta-
woman.
yeah, you have to put her in that category of. I'm not talking about just best female fighter. I'm talking about
Best
like
fighter.
overall.
Best
Right.
fighters. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And-
I don't care that she's fighting high level people of her own skill set, and
And she's murking them.
just that fight this past weekend was not even a fight. She didn't even get touched once, not once.
No.
It was 46 seconds, and it was a merciful end because she could have shut Megan Anderson's lights right out if she wanted to, but she took her down and submitted her with an inverted triangle into an Americana. Like, this is some high-level BJJ that you're not seeing anywhere else. She's got skills that she doesn't even show half the
Right.
time because she doesn't need to. But
Yeah.
you throw her in this situation, like, she opened the window just a little bit to say, hey, if you think the way to beat me is to take me down, you got to deal with this. So, which is it? Do you want to get knocked out or you want to get subbed? Which one? Let's do it.
And that kind of brings up another big problem too. Is like, what do you do with her now? She's beating the hell out of everyone in 2 weight classes.
The only person that has given her any trouble since her last loss, which was to Kat Zingano, is Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah,
She's
Shevchenko.
beaten Shevchenko twice, but both fights were tight.
Yeah.
But Shevchenko is also a beast. So, for me, I'm like, that's the only fight I really want to see is the two of them get together and fight at 135. Give Shevchenko a chance to be champ. Give Amanda Nunes the only chance to have an actually competitive fight.
Right.
That's the fight I want to see. I know Juliana Pena has been whining on the internet begging for a fight. And she's good, but let's be serious. Amanda will rock her shit. So
Yeah.
it doesn't even matter. I don't want to see the fight.
Yeah, I tend to agree. If it's not Shevchenko, I don't know. One, is that fight even like if she fought Juliana Pena, it doesn't even make sense business wise for the UFC even to put that fight on a pay per view. So considering it probably won't, it's not going to do any
Generated
numbers.
no money.
All right, you put against Shevchenko, people will buy to see that fight.
I'll pay to see the fight tonight. You tell me that they didn't even train, I'll watch the fight anyway. And then the headlining fight, I thought it went the way I expected it to go. Basically, if Jan took him down, it was going to be a long night for Adesanya. He just took his time to take him down. But once he got him there, it was like, all right, well, now we see that you are not big enough to take on John Jones.
Yeah, and I think
this is done now.
Like all the people I honestly think, man, people don't understand how good of a grappler John Jones is.
Oh no,
and John Jones is a finisher. Like he's going to if he gets you in a position where he can sniff a finish. Like the second time he fought DC, when he stopped DC, when he was when he rocked DC with a head kick and he finally got him to the ground and those elbows he was hitting DC with, man, those were like I was like, ish, that was like a vicious stoppage.
Yeah, so you know how the internet always puts the Michael Jordan crying face on things? I think people need to put the DC crying face on things because, I mean, it's up there with that pure embarrassment of crying.
Yeah, and just aside, I mean, and Jan's a big dude, and I don't think people get people coming from 205 are cutting from 230 to 235. I mean, Forrest Griffin said he's cut from 250 to make light heavyweight.
Well,
it's like
let's talk about Anthony Rumble Johnson, who used to cut from 240 to 170.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like
that shit is unreal.
How he didn't like end up in a hospital with
I don't get it.
Some sort of organ damage from those weight cuts is beyond me.
And now he's built like a fucking house.
Yeah, he's huge. I actually met him. A friend of mine does the matchmaking for this local promotion called Art of War in Philly, and Anthony Johnson was one of the featured guests, and he was in the back just looking at his cell phone, and I was standing behind him because I didn't know who he was. All I saw was this gigantic dude, and he stood up and he turned around. And I was like, "Oh shit, Rumble!" He's like, "Hey man, what's up?" And he gave me like a little fist bump. But I was like, "You hit people with this thing?" I was like, "Nah, I'm good."
Yo, it's probably like this.
Yeah, there's the same thing when I ran into, this was years ago. I met Jovan Curse. I don't know if you remember him, but he was at the Oxford Valley Mall. He was just there. Apparently, the Eagles were doing some meet and greet, but he was in the food court. And I was probably like 11 years old at the time, and I was like, who's that gigantic dude over there? And my stepdad was with me. He was like, "Oh yeah, it's Jovan Curse. The Eagles are here." I'm like, people have to block that guy, but you don't. It's like you don't get how big these people are until you actually see them, and you're like, God damn! Like, and I met Larry Holmes one time. I used to work at this place in Newtown called the Temperance House, and Larry Holmes was there.
That's where I met Larry Holmes. Is at the Temperance House because that motherfucker like to go to the Temperance House.
Right, and I was a busboy there. And I was like, my friend of mine that was there, she knew I was really into boxing. And I was, like, kind of like, being a little fanboy. She was like, "Oh, you can go up to him and say hi. I'm sure he won't mind." I was like, "Hey, Mr. Holmes." I was like 18, 19 at the time. "Hey, Mr. Holmes, I'm a fan of yours." He's like, "Oh, man, nice seeing you." Again, I shook his hand. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, it's like it's like shaking hands with a brick, like two bricks, like a cinder block.
I was like, I'm just like, dude, you used to hit people like this thing, like. Nah, I'm good, man. I'm good. I couldn't do it. Nah.
So, my uncle used to play the Temperance House because they would have jazz nights, and I'm talking in the 80s. I don't know if they still continue that, but they used to have jazz nights. So I would go there with my mom and my uncle because my mom was like always going to see him play, and she's like, "Larry Holmes is here." So she, picked me up and dragged me over there, and she's like, "It's Larry Holmes." I'm like, "This dude is fucking enormous." Like who's getting in the ring with this dude? Who thinks that this is a good fucking plan? And I was like 10 or 12. I'm like, "Yo, hi, goodbye. No, you too big for me."
But yeah, when I saw Anthony Johnson, I was like, this doesn't make any sense how this dude fought at 170 pounds. Like how he's able to even how he's able to even function, let alone fight another human being like at that weight was
those weight cuts were just crazy.
Yeah.
So
it was like inhuman.
Me and Walter went to one of the World Series of Fightings where it was down in AC, and Arlovsky fought Rumble when Rumble went to heavyweight for the first time. And
okay, I remember that.
I was 10 rows from the ring. Or from the cage or whatever they were fighting in, and when he broke that dude's jaw, you could hear it.
Oh, man.
Because he hit him right at the end of the bell. It was like, ding, 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 bang! And I was like, oh, that didn't sound good. And Arlovsky's walking off, like, holding his face. And I'm like, that's definitely a broken jaw, because you could hear it pop.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, no, I'm good, man. No, I'm all right. All right, man, just throw the towel. I'm good. I don't need it. I'm not dealing with this shit tonight.
Yeah, so, I remember that. That was just wild.
So speaking of Eagles that were huge, my cousin played for the Eagles, Harold Carmichael. And when I went with my mom to hang out with him one day, we were down at the stadium. He was 6'10", something like that. He was one of the tallest wide receivers of all time. Just mind-blowingly tall because I was like 6 when he was still playing, and I went down there and I'm just like, how do people even grow to this fucking size? It doesn't make any damn sense. So the idea of I'm like, can I get some of that? Please.
But yeah, I just think with Adesanya, man, because apparently he didn't weigh in much heavier than he did at middleweight.
He weighed in at 200 pounds. What it is, he didn't cut. He didn't cut, so he's just weighed in at his walk-around weight.
So, and I'm sure Peter Yan, I mean, he's a thick dude. He may not be as tall as Adesanya, but he's like a thicker dude, and he probably went into that fight the next day at like 215,
225. I'm gonna say it's 225.
And that size matters, man. When you got somebody, especially somebody on top of you, you know, they're playing top game and you're playing bottom. And then on top of the fact that they can punch you and elbow you, on, you know, it's, you know, size matters. That's why there's weight classes.
You also got to imagine that, yes, Adesanya has to have worked on the ground at least a little bit, but he's not prepared for someone of Jan's skill and size in the high pressure situation of round 4 and round 5 when you're already tired to be able to get up. Like, that was his problem, is that he just could not figure out how to get up. I know from when I was training jiu-jitsu, and even if I had somebody who was equal weight on me, if I was tired, I wasn't getting up.
Right.
It's just like, nah, I can't get your big ass off me. Get away from me.
And now put in punches. Like, what if that person was able to punch you?
Yeah, no,
it would have been. It would have been a totally different scenario. So I think, Adesanya, of course, the John Jones fight's off the table now. If he'd have won that fight, it would have made it more interesting. It would have given John a reason to come back down to light heavyweight to kind of to unify that title. But you know, Adesanya goes back down to middleweight. I mean, he's been dominant up until this point. I don't see many. I mean, as far as the middleweights go now, I don't think there's not a top 5 guy he hasn't fought yet.
I think that whoever comes in to fight him next is in for a world of fucking trouble, because he's gonna be mad. He's gonna be mad.
Israel's good, man. I mean, I've been following him since he was fighting, Rumble on the Rock, when he was, just doing straight kickboxing, and you could see there was like something, special about that guy. So he's good that he made that transition to MMA, and up until this point, he's been pretty successful.
Yeah, I mean, he had an undefeated record in MMA up till the other night. But what I'll say is that I don't think he's diminished by losing to Jan.
Nah. I think
at
it was
least
more
not in middleweight. Like, nobody's gonna look at that and be like, "Yo, this dude can't compete anymore. I'm gonna run through him." No, this was literally, it was a tight fight until we got to them takedowns in the 4th and 5th round.
And
like, it could have gone either way.
Yeah, and when you have, like you mentioned, skill, when you have someone who's big and skilled, I mean, they automatically have that advantage, because not only are they bigger than you, but they're just, I'm not saying Jan's a better mixed martial artist than Adesanya, but his size definitely made up for that.
Well, when you have two people that are the same, at a similar skill level, and one guy weighs a little bit more, it's just a foregone conclusion that if the guy who weighs a little bit more gets on top, he's going to hold that.
Right.
It's like when BJ Penn went up to fight, he was the lightweight champ, and he went up to fight George St. Pierre. Once St. Pierre got on top of him, it was over. Because that 15 pounds makes a huge difference. And the mentality of George St. Pierre, I am not going to lose. I'm certainly not going to lose to you.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy because BJ Penn once fought he fought Machida.
He fought at heavyweight once.
Right. He fought at heavyweight. Yeah, he's fought. I mean, how he was able to get down to 145 even was. I mean, and it's a shame what happened to him too, man. Like the latter part of his career, getting beat up by bouncers and all that nonsense.
He's just a head case, and he needs to just relax. But the last thing I'll say is that all I want to see is someone break fucking Dominick Cruz's legs once and for all, so he cannot come back. I'm done with his dumbass. I don't even want him on a broadcast. I fucking hate that guy. I'm sick of it. If you hear this, Dominick Cruz, I'll fight you. But guarantee you, I'm coming for your legs, and that's it.
Dude is so, well, besides the fact that he's made of glass, apparently his nose is made of glass too. Wah, he smelled like cigarettes. Wah.
Yeah.
I actually don't really mind Dominick Cruz. His fighting style is, to me, not the most. I mean, when he was in WC, he was the man because, his footwork, his ability to get in and out was very, it wasn't. No one could really gauge his movement patterns at that time because it was something new. Everyone's like, "Oh, this guy's got a crazy footwork." Now he gets touched a little more. Plus, on top of the fact that he's so movement heavy, because he's had plantar fasciitis, he's had knee issues. That's going to play into how well he can move within a fight because of those those injuries that he's had. Is just the fact that he
all the wet diapers
because
the sand in his pussy.
Because of my friend Gordon, who's actually fighting Thursday, he's a huge Dominick Cruz guy. And he was like, so disrespectful putting a two division or a 2-time world champion on a prelim. I was like, dude, you can't put him on the main card. Who's going to fight? It's not really until he gets back in that that top 10. You can't really use him as on a main card because he hasn't been active. He's been inactive for a long time.
The headlining prelim fight has long been used as the lost leader for trying to get people to buy the pay-per-view.
Right.
So what you got to do is put a name there to really hype people up. But for me, it was just this is the time I'm going to head to the fucking kitchen and get something to drink. I don't care what happens in this fight. I hope he falls down and both his legs are broken. I
can't go for that crybaby shit.
Me
when
either.
you said that shit about Keith, come on, dude.
Did you hear about that, Yohannes?
Yeah, do you know about that?
Oh, Keith, yeah. And the thing is, when that fight against Cejudo, he wasn't. I thought it was a good stoppage.
I thought it was a great stoppage.
Yeah, it was.
And the ref is not there to, kind of stroke your ego. He's there to protect you. It's a fight, which means he has to be extra cautious when something like that happens, not for you not to get hurt. And I think Keith Peterson made a good call there. And there was a meme that came out about that whole situation because Dominick Cruz tweeted that he didn't want Keith Peterson reffing his fight, and someone who apparently runs Keith Peterson's Twitter says that's fine because I don't ref prelims.
I will put it out there and take a guess that wasn't somebody who runs his. That was Keith.
That was Keith.
That's right.
That definitely sounds like something that Keith would say.
Yo,
Johannes, I don't know if you know this, but we know Keith because Keith sang for hardcore bands for a long time.
Okay.
And I remember when he used to be. Yeah, we've been friends with him and his wife for many, many years, and he's always been a cool dude. And I remember when he started fighting, and then he started getting into the ref side of things. And he's always been cool, and he's worked his way up. I got nothing but respect for him because he's worked his way up to be one of those top refs. You see him working a lot of the main events, a lot of those cards, and he's built himself up as a solid ref. And Cruz trying to go after him like that, nah. Nah, I'm not with that. That's some bullshit. That's some crybaby shit, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's funny because when I initially met Keith, because we fought on the same card years ago.
Oh wow!
And then, some time went past, and I guess he stopped fighting. Then he was reffing a lot of the fights I was on, the cards I was on. I was like, did he fight for so and so? He's like, yeah, I remember you. And it was just weird seeing that him transition from, that fighter to where he's at now, where he's reffing these big, pay-per-view events and stuff like that. And out of all the refs, other than maybe Herb Dean, he's been the most consistent. I'm sure he's had a few questionable stoppages, but he's been pretty consistent. And a lot of just going back to Dominick Cruz and Henry Cejudo fight, it wasn't like I thought Dominick Cruz had a chance of even, coming back and winning that fight. It was he was hurt pretty bad. I thought Keith made a great call by stopping the fight, but of course, Dominic disagrees. But I think Keith has been super consistent with his reffing. There's very few fights I've seen in him ref, and I'm like, that was a bad stoppage.
I honestly feel like they've gotten rid of most of the really bad refs that exist. Like, you're gonna have to have questionable calls in general because you're making off-the-cuff decisions based on the information that you're seeing. You're gonna make some mistakes. It's just part of the game. But I would argue that Keith and the guys that you see most regularly are all high-quality referees. And like, if they made a mistake, most of them will own up to actually making a mistake. Keith didn't make a mistake in that fucking Dominick Cruz fight. No. He was getting pieced up. And it looked like the fight was over. And not because I don't like Dominick Cruz, but it just looked like the fucking fight was over. So he made the fucking call. It is what it is. Lick your wounds, bitch, and come back. And otherwise, shut the fuck up.
And you mentioned Len, ref making mistakes. I heard Herb Dean, when he was on Rogan's podcast, he was talking about the Robbie Lawler fight when he fought Ben Askren and why he stopped it when he did, because he said he was reffing a fight at this promotion called King of the Cage they used to have back in the day. And this kid was in that same exact cervical lock when he had the bulldog choke. He ended up getting, he said he had temporarily, he was temporarily paralyzed from his waist down because it pinched a nerve in his neck from that same exact choke. So that's why Herb Dean stopped it when he did, because he didn't, of course, you don't want anyone getting severely injured like that.
Yeah, of course.
So that was him justifying, okay, this is why I stopped it. But now that he put it, of course, watching it, you're like, oh, why did he stop it? Robbie Lawler wasn't hurt. But now hearing the backstory as to why, you're like, okay, I understand now why he made that call. And that's happening in real time too, man. That's
right. It's all
that's a big part of it. You're in there and you're supposed to protect the safety of these fighters. You're not going to be perfect, and that goes with any sport. It just so happens this is a combat sport. There's a lot more potential for serious injury with something like this than, say, baseball or something. But I'd rather have a stoppage in the interest of safety. That may not be a great stoppage, but I'd rather see that than have somebody get really hurt, because all it takes, and I said the same thing about, because I watch a lot of deathmatch pro wrestling also. All it takes is one guy to get really hurt,
or
and
dead.
It's probably going to fuck things up real bad for a lot of people.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if you got the unified rules or whatever. In the end, it's going to be a lot of bad press, and it's going to make a mess for a lot of people. So,
speaking of deathmatches, Gary, I heard Necro Butcher has a genius level IQ. Is that true?
I have heard that also. Yeah. I've talked to him, and he seems like a pretty intelligent dude. But I've also heard stories that. Yeah, he's an intelligent dude, but maybe some craziness going on. Okay. I know he's been in poor health recently. I don't know the details, but I know the last time I saw him on a show, he really looked very unhealthy, and that was how it was revealed that he, it was said afterwards that, he wanted to have a retirement match, but that he was really in bad shape. Some sort of health issue, but I haven't heard anything more about it, and that show was over a year ago, so I haven't heard anything else, so I really don't know what his status is right now.
Yeah, I just saw that apparently Terry Funk's not doing too well either.
I mean, I have heard that. I'm surprised, not to sound fucked up because I love Terry Funk, but I'm surprised he's even made it this long, because that dude really fucked himself up.
Right.
I mean, that's where my mind is, because he looked in bad condition when I was a kid, and that was 25 years, 30 years ago. Yeah, I'm talking.
I mean, he really did a number on himself, because he did a lot of the crazy deathmatch stuff at an advanced age, and as like I said, I do watch a good amount of I found some of it doesn't agree with me just because it's just overboard for the sake of being overboard. Because in the end, you watch some of these guys and you realize like they're taking years off their life.
They're watching them. You're watching them slowly kill themselves, literally.
Yeah, they're taking years off their own life, and I think the worst for me is to watch some of them do it just for fun with like no story behind it at all, nothing to get you into it, and they're just randomly jumping off the fucking roof of a house, you know?
Yeah, sound like Jim Cornette right now, Gary.
I mean, no, because Jim Cornette would be like, fuck these fucking idiots. These dumb motherfuckers. Jumping off of houses like fucking assholes.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not Cornette level about it. I watch it and I enjoy it, but I just feel like there's got to be a reason to watch it. Like, there's got to be something to bring me into it. Like, I don't want to just see dudes hitting each other with light tubes just for the hell of it. Like,
right.
Give me some story to it. Give me something to keep me interested in it. And I think, there's a couple of companies that are doing a really good job with that, of not just giving you a bunch of random garbage matches. Like GCW is really, because there was a GCW show over the weekend, excellent show, booked really well, and yeah, some of it is guys hitting each other with light tubes, but there's a story to it. It keeps you interested, and it's more than just some random shit, and that makes it a lot more enjoyable. Because the truth is, and I've seen it with some of these guys, like, they hurt themselves, and some of them come back, some of them don't, and it's like you don't want to see these guys fucking ruin their lives over the shit, you know?
So you're saying that New Jack beating Gypsy Joe with a baseball bat wasn't good wrestling?
That is not at all what I said. Because that was incredibly entertaining, and the truth is, hey, Gypsy Joe should have fucking sold for him. God damn it.
Yeah, but I didn't know that was the reason. Like, because of course, me watching the match, I was like, well, why isn't Gypsy Joe selling? But apparently, his whole gimmick was he was impervious to pain. I didn't know that going in. I'm pretty sure New Jack didn't know that going in, so that's probably why he got so pissed.
Listen. As has been proven, did you watch did we talk about the Dark Side of the Ring with New Jack?
No, not yet, but I did watch it.
Okay.
I watched it as well.
Because I think Len and I did talk about it, and I thought maybe it was when you were on, but maybe it wasn't.
I think it was with Marty.
Okay. If you were getting in the ring with New Jack, you should know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, I mean, I wouldn't get a to go, but yeah, I agree.
It wasn't a secret. So,
yeah.
And I love New Jack. I got an autographed copy of his book.
Oh, nice.
And I think he's hysterical. Although the funniest shit that I ever saw with New Jack was not in the ring, and that was in the MySpace days when he used to pop onto MySpace at like 2:30 in the morning and post his phone number and be like, "Yo, call me, motherfuckers," and then he'd be like, a couple hours later, he'd post another thing on MySpace like, "Yo, Tina from Mississippi, I'm gonna talk to you soon." Like, that motherfucker was pimping at all times. But he would do that, like, middle of the night, he would just jump on MySpace and throw a bulletin out there like, "Yo, call me," and drop his digits.
Hey, whatever works, baby. Whatever works.
Yeah, I'm not calling that dude, because then he'll pop up in my house.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Like, if I saw New Jack in the street, I would. But hey, what's up, man? Give him a little fist bump. But as far as like conversating with him, yeah, because I kind of equate, not him exactly, but like if I met Mike Tyson, like you don't know what's going to trigger that dude. Like, you might say something about just in passing about Robin Givens, and he'll just snap out. And just, I'm just like, nah, man. Like, if I met Mike Tyson, it's like, hey, Mr. Tyson, big fan, fist bump. But I'm not. It's like, Kevin Lee said it best when he was on Rogan's podcast. He said he was sitting next to Mike Tyson at a UFC event. He said it was like sitting next to a lion, because you just don't know what's going to set this dude off.
Yeah.
The person that I would say that if I saw them on the street, I would just straight avoid Bernard Hopkins. Just something about the man. You're like, tough son of a bitch, great boxer. Seems like a wild card.
Yeah. So I have a crazy Hopkins story. Me and this guy I used to work with when I worked at FedEx. And then another big boxing guy. He's a yo man. I got extra ticket to go to when he fought Tarver years ago.
Yep.
He's like, you want to go to the fight? I'm like, yeah, sure, yeah, I'll go to that fight. There was only an AC, so we went down. We're in the elevator. We're both drunk, and Hopkins gets in the elevator with us.
Oh shit!
And he has a very distinct face. It's like the bottom of a pan, and you're like, yo. He was like, yo, man, and he heard him say, yo, I think that's Bernard Hopkins. So I asked him, I was like, hey man, are you Bernard Hopkins? He looked at me, he said, yeah, no, I'm not. I was like, yeah, you're definitely Bernard Hopkins. He's like, yeah, no, I'm not. And I'm like, why is he being an asshole? So I'm like, all right, man, whatever, man. I wish you luck tomorrow. Be tired with that. He's like, man, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you guys. You guys have a good night. I'm like, dude, I know who you are. And now that I think about it, it's like, I've told a story before to people. I'm like, maybe he thought I was going to like rob him or something, or
right,
or
talk shit to him, or whatever.
Or talk shit, right? Because now I'm like, all right, well, that makes sense if he was thinking that way. But at the time, I was like 23, 24.
And you're like, why is this guy acting like a fucking dick?
I was like, why? I was like, yeah, why Bernard Hopkins? I'm just saying what's up to him. But yeah, now looking back, I'm like, maybe he thought I was probably going to try and say something slick to him, and he didn't want to deal with my bullshit. Plus, dude, he didn't want to have to piece you. Yo, he didn't want to piece you up in the fucking. He thought you were looking for money, because if he puts hands on you, you got money coming. Right. So it's better if you just don't. If he just says, "Nah, I'm not. That's not me," because then he can get away with just walking away.
Damn! Now I'm gonna have to fuck this dude up in an elevator.
Right. So, guys, you think what's the deal with the shows going forward, man? What do you think's gonna happen with that now?
Oh God, I don't even know. I think a lot of this reopening that's happening is a little too early and a little too hopeful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't even want to comment on the show's part, because it's a part of a bigger thing, for sure. But people are wilding out thinking that this vaccine is the end-all, be-all of what makes it deemed acceptable to go out and do things. The vaccine is part of a bigger plan that includes still social distancing, masks, wash your fucking hands, etc. Because what we need to do is get enough people vaccinated so that we can't mutate the virus over and over and over again. But places like Texas and Louisiana and a couple other places are like, fuck it, we're going full bore. We're just going to jump in the fucking pool again. Yep. And they haven't taken the goddamn sharks out of the goddamn pool. So we're all going to get fucked.
Well, I said this, I'm sure I said this on this podcast before, and I said it the other day on somebody's thread on Facebook. And this is going to sound fucked up, but try to understand my logic here. I hope that those states that reopen like that get slammed with the virus. Not that I want people to be sick, but because if they don't, we are never going to hear the end of it.
Yeah.
We're going to hear so much anti-science shit. They're going to be like, look, we told you we didn't get sick. And that's just going to be the excuse for so much more bullshit and so much more fuckery that fuck that. We don't have to wear masks. And now when the next, I don't want to say pandemic, but the next like health concern comes around, they're going to be like, oh, well, look at what happened last time. I'm just going to do my thing. And it's just going to fuck everybody up, because they're going to be like, well, look, we were right, they were wrong. And that's going to be their excuse to never listen to anything when it comes to science.
I mean, were they listening to anything when it came to science in the first place?
No, but they were forced. What'd you say, Yohannes?
No, I don't think those people who have that sort of mentality, I don't think they gave a shit before.
No, they didn't, but because of different things that were happening, they were forced to handle things a certain way. They were forced to wear masks because they were mandated in certain areas. They were forced to stay away from each other. It wasn't a free-for-all because people had some control over it in certain ways. After that, if it doesn't become a thing, everybody's just going to... And even if it's not fully sound logic, even if there's reasons for it, they're automatically just going to turn and say, oh, well, the fucking scientists were wrong. They're bullshit. They don't know what they're talking about. And it's just going to open us up to all kinds of new stupidity down the line.
Right. And
I feel like that's all we've been seeing is new stupidity. Just for a whole year, just all new stupidity.
We have, but...
And it's just going to get worse.
It's only going to get worse, especially because they will feel like they're justified. And that will be the target. That will be their evidence. Even if it's flawed, it's not going to matter. That's going to be their evidence that they're going to wave around. They're going to say, look, we opened everything in Alabama or wherever, and nobody got sick. And
have you guys ever heard the book? This is where I kind of fall in line with this whole thing. And there's a book called The Death of Expertise by a guy named Tom Nichols.
I have not heard of it.
So he talks about in the book, kind of like a brief summary, is that it's impossible to talk to experts now because so many people just flood their opinions without having any type of background. And,
oh, yeah.
And again, say what you want about, Dr. Fauci, whether you like him or not. Look at his resume. It's not like the guy is a complete fucking, novice to medicine. He's been doing this for the better part of, 30 years, 40 years on?
The other thing with Fauci that a lot of people gloss over and that I like to point out to people because I feel that it's very important, everything gets so politicized nowadays, and I think it's important to remind people that Fauci worked under multiple administrations that were both Democrat and Republican.
Yeah, I think he worked under the first Bush Sr. He was under his presidency.
I think so.
Yeah, too.
He's definitely been working for a long time under different administrations, and people just automatically, because now everything is politicized.
Right.
But look at this. He has been an advisor to every U.S. president since Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, it's just that's insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
But he doesn't know. But he doesn't know what he's talking about.
No, he doesn't know what he's talking about. George W. awarded Fauci the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian award in the United States, for his work on an AIDS relief program.
But Rush Limbaugh got that somehow.
Oh yeah. Well, listen. That's the thing. Fauci doesn't know what he's talking about because you could just sit there and read a bunch of posts on Facebook and Twitter, and you'll know just as much as he does.
Right. And the thing is, it's okay if someone like Fauci and someone who's just as credentialed as him disagree. That's completely different because they're both experts in that field of medicine. But when I see these fucking yo-yos online posting something that they saw on, again, conservativecuckparty.com about
I hope you own that website.
Yes.
I hope you already purchased that .com.
But I'm just like, dude, do you really think that the person, whoever's on his website, knows more about medicine than a guy who's literally been doing it since, literally longer than you've been alive?
Yeah.
It's just that's the part that gets me, and that's what that book's about. It's like how expertise is pretty much dead because you can't be an expert because then the next person is going to send you some sort of a BuzzFeed link and say, oh well, this person says this. I'm like, dude, it's not that nuanced, man. You gotta I don't know.
Based on the title and what you're telling me about it, it sounds right up my alley because it's the same stuff that we talk about here on the podcast all the time. That just there's so much stupidity. I called it. I used the term from one of our early episodes. It's the war on common sense. that it's not even just science; it's just basic brains, and
Gone.
it's like a
It's just
war.
gone.
It's not even just that it's gone. It's like if you have common sense, you're an asshole. It's like what I was saying about my kids, like teaching my kids that like ignorance is just is encouraged at this point. It's like you know, if you're smart or act like you're smart, like people make fun of you. Like, how dare you be intelligent? We're supposed to be stupid. And like, how the fuck did we get here? And I know how we got here because we've talked about it before, but it still just blows my mind that we have reached this point.
Yeah, I mean, not knowing is way better than spending a few minutes and just to again learn a little something.
Well, because listen, if you took all this shit going on with COVID, with the masks and QAnon and all this other stuff, if you took all this shit and put it together in a movie, it would basically be a remake of Idiocracy. Like, what the fuck?
So, Hannes, you've seen Idiocracy, right?
Yeah. It was a long time ago, but I've seen it. Yeah, I probably haven't seen that movie in like 10 years.
Well, don't watch it again because now it'll be a fucking horror movie. It'll scare the shit out of you.
That's where we got the name for this podcast, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So her in the movie, the Maya Rudolph's character was always concerned with Upgrade coming to get her. She wouldn't make any moves because she was worried about Upgrade.
Worried about Upgrade.
Oh,
and
right.
Upgrade was the pimp that was played by Scarface from the Ghetto Boys.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And, and we were joking around about ideas for the name of the podcast, and then I think I was the one that was like, well, let's call it Upgrade, and we were going to spell it wrong the way he spelled it, and then I thought about it and was like, nah, because then people will search for it. People search for it and won't be able to find it, so we spelled it normal.
Yep.
And
it's
and that's how the
from
Upgrade was born.
And then basically every episode, almost every episode since the beginning, we have referenced that movie. I think the only episodes we haven't referenced it have been ones that were either specifically focused on UFC or on like a person specifically. Like if we were having a conversation, like I don't think we talked about it with our friend Chris.
Right.
Like I don't know that it came up in that conversation. But in our regular like talk, it just comes up because we both feel like we're living in that fucking movie.
Yeah. It certainly comes up anytime we discuss anything related to current events because it's just such an obvious connection, because if you watch that movie, it really it's not even parallels. It just like the world straight follows this fucking movie, which is terrifying because the whole purpose of that movie, for those of you, if you haven't seen it, please go see it. I'm sure, I don't even know what streaming service. It might be on Amazon. I forget.
If you live near me, just stop by my house. I will loan you my copy. Shit, I'll rip it and upload it. I don't even care.
I'm going to have to rewatch it now. Now that you're saying it's like kind of mirroring like current events in the world today, I might have to just break it.
It is not available for free.
So
you have to cough up like $4 on Amazon to watch it.
Let me ask you this, Hannes. Have you watched or seen, or you at least know of, the show on MTV called Ridiculousness?
Yeah, the Rob Dyrdek.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that show is basically Ow My Balls.
Ow My Balls.
It's like basically the same thing.
It's exactly the same thing.
Oh wow! I never. I remember Tosh.0 talking a lot of shit about Rob Dyrdek because he apparently stole his whole platform, which he did. I mean, Tosh.0. That's what I mean.
Well, yeah, Tosh.0 is almost the same shit.
Right. And but yeah, I just remember.
I mean, Jackass before that, but Jackass was them doing it themselves,
right?
Which was a little bit different.
Well, even before Jackass, Tom Green was doing that before. Jackass dudes were were doing that shit, but I just couldn't take ridiculousness because of that chick Chanel, her fucking laugh, man.
Chanel West Coast.
And dude, she sucks. I don't know. Like,
I don't know her personally, but like,
you guys know she's a rapper, right?
Well, yeah,
I am aware.
Like, because I just remember.
Just don't look it up.
I'm not going to. I know better.
Like, it was like 4 or 5 nights ago. I was just scrolling through my Facebook feed, my Facebook feed, and this Love and Hip Hop episode came on that she was on, and then she was talking about, oh, I did a song with Ty Dolla $ign and ASAP Rocky and all this other shit. So I'm like, all right, well, let me YouTube it. See
you did that to yourself?
Oh yeah, dude. I had to know, but then I heard.
There are things that I don't need to know. Like, and that falls right into that list of things I don't need to know. But
dude, yeah, I heard it. I'm like, dude, this is horrible, man, horrible. It was like, well, I don't know why. Yeah, it was like maybe 10 seconds into one of her corny ass songs. I was like, yeah, this chick sucks. I can't do this.
Oh, it's terrible. It's really. But then if my introduction was her saying like, oh, I did a song with this person and that person, then I wouldn't have even bothered because I know that shit is trash.
So no shows this summer, guys. No, this is hardcore. No nothing.
I'll go if there's like some mumble rap shows going on.
Right.
There are gonna be shows.
There's definitely gonna be shows because already they're starting to announce things and like big festivals too.
Punk rock fest out in Punk Rock Bowling. In Las Vegas is scheduled for the exact same weekend as Furnace Fest reunion thing that they're doing down in Alabama. So basically, we're going to have a wild influx of COVID in the punk hardcore scene from people going to one or the other. Then they're just going to bring it back to wherever they live. So if we got small shows after that, it's going to be a total nightmare. But I'm all for people doing whatever it is that they want to do. I just don't want to be bothered by people being mad that I am not going to participate in it.
Right.
Like, I don't want to hear the bullshit from other people like, oh, you're not coming to the show? No, motherfucker, I'm not coming to the show. You want to go? You go. I don't care. It's not my problem. As long as I stay within my bubble, I don't need to deal with it. So that's where I sit. Like, if they really want to have these shows, go on and have them. I can't stop you. Not my problem.
Yeah, I question whether it's a good idea to reopen things in general, not just when it comes to shows, but just everything, which is, some of these states are just basically just blowing the doors open and be like, yeah, we're open for everything. And I think it's a bad idea.
Phil Murphy in New Jersey put out a statement that he is not going to open the state 100% until he has word that 80% of our residents throughout the whole state above the age of 16 have had the vaccination. Right now, we are at 40% that have had at least one dose, and another 20% beyond that have had a second dose. So we've got a long way to go until we're at 80%. So I'm just following what someone who should have better information than I have, I'm following their lead. Like, I'm not trying to kiss anybody's ass, but I know that there's no way that my dumb ass has all the answers. So if the governor of my state says that 80% of the people need to be vaccinated for things to be safe enough to open up 100%, stay my ass at home.
Well, let me say another thing that I don't think a lot of people take into account when it comes to this shit. We're not talking about people here. We're talking about a virus. And a virus is a force of nature. And sometimes these things don't follow set rules and patterns. So everybody is to the point where they think that everybody should know every fucking thing if they're in a scientist or in a position of authority or whatever. Like, sometimes these things don't go the way you expect them to go. And sometimes that's good in the sense of like, oh, well, we got off better than we thought we would. But like, everybody is just holding people to account for shit that really can't account for, and nobody knows how some of this shit is really going to go. And that goes for the people that say that things are going to end up worse and they don't, or the people that think things are going to be better and they end up worse. And I think it's better to be cautious, but I'm also not going to be on some shit like what I was saying before, where like, oh, they were wrong. It's like, if they were wrong, you know what? Good, we got lucky. But I'm not going to sit there holding all these fucking scientists to the fire. To the fire because, like, oh, well, we thought it was going to be this way and it's not as bad as we thought, so now fuck them. Like, no, that's not. This is all uncharted territory for everybody. So some of these predictions are going to be right. Some of these predictions are going to be wrong. And listen, it's like Jurassic Park. It's like nature finds a way. So, like, it's a nice idea that, like, everything will be cool, but, like, some shit could happen that could make this thing worse, or some shit could happen that might, this thing might kind of clear up a bit. I just hate this mentality that, like, everybody's being held to some crazy standard that, like, the scientists should know everything about what's going on. Like, I don't expect anybody to know exactly how this is going to go.
Yeah, and just speaking for myself, my wife's parents are, they're in their 70s. So, I mean, they both have had their shots, but her dad just, was in the hospital not too long ago. But when he got because they give you a mandatory COVID test, because he was going to the procedure and he had COVID. Thankfully, he had the vaccine by then, but it was like, if he didn't, being that he's in his 70s, he could have been, that could have been it for him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like stuff like that. And luckily my mom, she works at a hospital too, so she got her vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, and my mom's, she's, going to be, 63, I believe, next year. And like I said, man, it's just, especially for like people with older parents, it can be exceptionally terrifying knowing that, if my mom or dad gets this COVID thing, and they're up there in age, that might be the last time I, talk to them. So I get that part. And she's been real good about not going over, kind of, when her parents, and it kind of sucked for our kids because they really, want to see them. But them coming over, us social distancing, staying outside, wearing masks, it's just scary knowing that people who out there who have like older folks that they can't see just because, the idea of them dying because they got COVID is a little, it's a terrifying thought.
I get it because my mom is in her 80s. So
my dad's in his 80s too.
Yeah, and we didn't do stuff for Christmas because my family was worried about it. And the main concern is that more than anything, we didn't want to get my mother sick. But the other thing too is that, listen, like what Len was talking about, this may come as a surprise to some of you people listening to this, but you can make your own fucking decisions, and you don't have to force everybody else to follow what you're doing. Like, if Len doesn't want to go to a show, or I don't want to go to a show, that doesn't mean that nobody should go to the fucking show. Like, that's my personal decision, his personal decision, and that's, and the same goes for the vaccine, the same goes for all these other things. I'm skeptical about the vaccine. Will I get it? Maybe eventually, but whether I get it or not, I'm not worried about what you're doing, whether you're getting the vaccine or not, and I'm certainly not going to sit there and say, oh, you shouldn't get the vaccine, blah, 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 blah. I make my choices for me, and that's it. Like, you do what you're going to do. You do what's best for you and your family. Like, I may say some shit because people get crazy about not wearing masks and stuff, and it's kind of important. But, in the end, for a lot of people, you're going to make your own decisions. And, I think we spend too much time in this country worrying about what other fucking people are doing.
Yeah, I was just talking about that. It's funny you mentioned that, Gary, because I was literally just having a conversation with my wife the other day, because she gets worked up about people posting online about, they're reluctant to wear masks, and, this COVID thing is ran its course, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I was just telling her, like, you can't control people. People are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to say what they're going to say. You just have to worry about yourself. And because she's like really considerate about other people. And I'm like, that's you though. That's not the majority at large. People are going to live their lives how they want to live their lives, and you just kind of have to let them, kind of let them just do their own thing and not get so caught up in wanting them to be like you because they're not.
Right.
You know what I mean? And people are, they're going to have their own selfish reasons for doing anything. It's just human nature, unfortunately.
Yeah. I just think we spend too much time worrying about what other people are doing and trying to micromanage what people are doing. I understand the mask thing, and in the end, to me, the mask thing, like, what's the big deal? Like, there's so little effort involved in wearing a mask, and the scientists say that if we all wore masks from early on, we probably could have topped this thing already.
Oh, I was saying that the other day.
Yeah.
If we had just worldwide taken a month off, we would be done with this. And I'm talking real month off, not just not people bullshitting. Everybody stay home. The only people who are allowed out are people who need to go to the doctor or those who are delivering food to people who need it. That's it.
Right.
Everybody else, stay the fuck home. Don't go over your neighbor's house and kick it. Just stay in your fucking house. If we had done that across the board for a month last March, because funny enough, we're talking right now. Today is the day a year ago. Well, the day of the week a year ago that my office sent us home for 2 weeks. They said, we're gonna go home for 2 weeks. We'll see you then. Just take what you want. You can pick everything else up. I haven't been in that office in a year now, as of today. Today is day 365.
So, Len, do you think you're going to end up going back, or are you guys permanently doing remote?
So my company, we for the last year or so, we operated on saved money. But they got to a point where that it was no longer a viable way to conduct the business because A, the model of the business was changing, and B, we had run through all the backstock of money. So they actually did a series of layoffs in the beginning of February. They haven't decided to close offices yet, but it is something that they're discussing. In the change, I ended up with a new position, and my new boss is based in New York City, not in the Philadelphia office, well, the Yardley office that I worked in. So I no longer have to go to the office. So for me, it's viably closed. I don't need to go there anymore. I can work from home pretty much permanently, other than, an occasional meeting or whatever that I need to go into. I think that enough businesses, and I'm talking large businesses, who have operated now for a year from home are going to start to really look at how much money they're spending on office space when they're getting the same amount of work or output that they were getting from the people who are at the office now, and they're just doing it from the house, or they're even getting better production because the people are no longer distracted by the drive and the other people, and they're just sitting at their desks at home just pounding through work. So I think overall we're going to see a large retraction over time. It's not going to be immediate, but I think that the whole business model changed by this.
Oh yeah, it's already happening, because there are plenty of places that are just cutting back on their office space because they've done that math, just like what Len is talking about, and they see that they can get that productivity without having that office space and that expense of that office space, and they're crunching those numbers and seeing that result and saying, hey, we can save some money.
Yeah, even the event that I'm going to, like the guy I'm cornering for Thursday for CFFC, you can't buy individual seats. You have to buy a table. And even at the table, where everyone's social distance and stuff. But I have to go in Wednesday for weigh-ins. I have to get a COVID test. But when we go back in Thursday for the rules meeting and for the actual fight, I have to be there by 3 o'clock, and I can't leave until after he fights. Once I leave the building, I can't get back in. So I gotta like bring like something to eat and stuff like that. But the commission's been pretty strict about capacity here in Philly. Like I was working at Union Transfer for a while, and once Union Transfer closed because of COVID, but I get emails every now and again from the the manager talking about when they're going to reopen and stuff like that. But for places like that to reopen now at 50% capacity would make no sense for them, just because I feel as though they probably wouldn't make any money on any of the shows because they just wouldn't have the the capacity of the people there to even justify putting on an event. They'll probably end up losing a ton of money on that. And the same thing with CFFC, since they can't, it's 50% capacity, which means they can't afford to bring in a lot of fighters from, because it's a regional promotion, but they can't afford to bring in a lot of guys regionally because you have to fly people in. You got to put them in a hotel. So a lot of expenses, on that side of it. So, yeah, man, it's definitely going to be, definitely a change of pace for me as far as like literally not being able to go anywhere for, upwards like, 6-7 hours until he actually fights. But, it's not that big of a deal. I'm just going to be, I'm pretty sure I'll have something to do. I'll bring a book or something like that. But, people are making, because some of the people that I know that are going to be there, some of the other people from different gyms are like, oh, this is stupid, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, just fucking bring a Game Boy or something like that, man. It's not that big of a deal, man. Just...
speaking of Game Boys, I found my Game Boy in the drawer earlier today.
Nice.
Does it still work?
Yeah, it still works. The batteries didn't even explode.
What game?
I think it was Tetris. I just left Tetris in there.
Well, Johannes, talking about what you're talking about as far as like going and cornering the fights and not being able to leave and stuff like that. That's one of the things that I wonder when it comes to these venues doing the shows and stuff. Like, they're not going to do all of that. They're not going to sit there and make bands sit there all day. They're not going to. I don't see them COVID testing every band on the bill. Like, I don't know how it's all going to work. I really and then the other side of it that you also mentioned is the mathematics of it, which is something that I've thought about a lot and we've definitely talked about in the past, which is if you open at 30% capacity or whatever it is, a lot of places can't turn a profit on that.
Nope. Not enough bodies.
And that's just on a venue local show. When you're talking about tours, they definitely can't turn a profit.
Right.
So the mathematics of it all might be the undoing, because you're a national band. You book things a certain way based on the capacity of these venues. Now you can only operate at 30%. Some of these venues will just be out of the game because they just can't operate at that and make any money. Some of them,
in Philly,
they might try, but
what's it called? I'm not sure if it closed down or not. That spot right next to what was the Franklin Music Center now, which is
Voltage Lounge. You're talking about
Voltage Lounge? Yeah. I remember they had like a GoFundMe.
I'm pretty sure they announced that they were closed.
Yeah, they're closed.
They're closed. Because the last show I saw there was when Immolation was they just put out their new album and they were going for that. But that was the last time I was at that venue. Now I didn't know if they closed down permanently.
They had announced that they were closed, and I guess they were still using the building for a couple of things, because I did see a wrestling show that was done there after they announced that they were closed, but it was obviously a closed set kind of thing.
Right.
So they may have just rented out the building for that. I don't know. But I think it's all very questionable. I think there's going to be a lot of places that won't open because they can't operate and make any money. I think there's going to be a lot less as far as national touring goes. I think you may be okay when it comes to like what we were talking about with like Furnace Fest or these other fests, because those are like one-timers.
Right.
And they'll end up, if they have the proper funding and they feel like they can make enough money on it, it's funny because the best way to compare it is to the corporate stuff like I was talking about before. If you have like such a big giant thing, you can bury those costs in there the same way like we were talking about the mergers when I was talking about Grubhub and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's the same kind of mathematics when it comes to a big fest. It's like, yeah, it's going to cost a lot of money, but all those numbers are lost in the shuffle because you got a lot of people paying full price tickets and you're paying however many bands, and it'll all end up balancing out somehow. But the mathematics is very different on like a single local show.
Now, Len, how have you been kind of operating Landmine? Have you had people come in like?
Oh, I have people in. I have people in all the time. I have the rule that if you need to cancel because of an exposure or a potential exposure, I am not trying to take your money from you, and I am not trying to get sick. You let me know when you're well, and we'll reschedule. That's the first thing I tell people. Don't come here if you think you've had an exposure whatsoever. Number two, when you get here, I have hand sanitizer everywhere. In every room, there's hand sanitizer. I'm like, if you're fiddling with your face or your nose, put the hand sanitizer on. Like, don't be touching my shit with your fucking filthy hands. That goes for door handles too. I also keep, like, I have probably 6 canisters of disinfectant wipes. And before I leave and when I get there every day, I wipe every handle and most surfaces that get touched, wipe them down real quick. Doesn't take that long. Doesn't cost that much to do. And then I wear a mask the whole time. And I ask that if you're in the room with me, that you're wearing a mask too. Now, if you got to sing, we all know that you can't sing through a mask. You're in a whole different room from me. I'm not on that microphone with you. Like, we're good. If it's a one-on-one session and you're sitting on the couch and the couch is 8 feet from me, we may not have to do the mask as stringently. But if we're in close quarters, you're within like 3-4 feet of me, put your fucking mask on.
Now, have you had any issue yet, or everybody been pretty cool?
Everybody's been cool because they're just happy that you're open.
Right.
So, I try not to be an asshole about it. And people are going to make mistakes. Like, you walked in from outside and you forgot to put it on. I just go, yo. And most people go, sorry. Simple. I try not to be a dick. But I also have requirements. And the reason why I have these requirements, like, if it was just me and I wasn't really that worried about it, that's fine. But I'm taking care of my 86-year-old father who has dementia, who has health issues beyond that, and if I'm gonna be in and out of his house 3, 5, 6 times a week, I don't want to bring the ship down because you didn't want to put your mask on.
Right.
It can't go that way. And if you can't respect that, then let's work when this is over. Like, I would love to have you in, do the work. It's nothing personal. I just can't be in this situation otherwise. And most people I haven't had to, like, throw anybody out. We'll say that.
Oh, good. I mean, any bands that you've worked with since that you can say, yo, this is a band that really we should be checking out, or?
I think you might like the Purgatory record I did. That's something. I'm actually in the middle of doing a record for a thrash band from New Jersey right now. They're called Paralysis, and they covered Overkill, and the cover is pretty damn good.
What song?
Time to Kill.
Ooh.
So
I gotta check that out.
I'll make sure you get a copy when it's all tied up. But, like, we've spent 2 days together. We did drums and guitar one day, and then we did bass yesterday. We got like one more day to get the vocals done, and then I gotta mix it. But they're young kids doing old thrash, and it's fun. There's this band called Reaching Out. They're little kids, like 15, 16, 17 years old. One of the kids in the band is their dad was in Second to None, and the other one's dad it's Rob Rosario, who was in Madball and 25 to Life and a bunch of different bands. So, you know, his kid is playing guitar, the other kid is playing drums, and then the other 3 people in the band all have parents that were involved in the scene. Either they're, you know, now they're tattoo artists, or, you know, just happen to go to shows all the time or whatever. So it's like a second generation or even a third generation of hardcore kids coming up, and, you know, they've come to me for 2 songs so far, and they're growing. I mean, they're little kids, so they're growing into being musicians, but I think it's fun.
That's crazy to even say that someone's dad was in Second to None. And he's in there recording with.
Yep.
Oh my God, man, Jesus.
So it's kind of nuts, but at the same time, like, you know, listen, my kids think it's cool that, like, my band is on YouTube and stuff, but, like, they're not really into the music. Eventually, who knows? Eventually, over time, maybe they might get into it. But, you know, my kids are like 14, 15 now, so, like, that's not that far off from when I started getting into that type of music.
Yep.
So
same.
It's kind of crazy, but at the same time, it's like we're getting to that age now where it's not that far out there. Like, my kids could easily, you know, if things are normal, obviously, but, like, my kids could easily, at their age, start getting into hardcore and start wanting to go to shows, you know?
All right, so Gary, since you have older kids, I need some wisdom. How fast does it go by? Because I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Oh, dude. It goes by. It goes by so quickly. Because, dude, I feel like I've watched them pop out yesterday sometimes. And you know, COVID is a crazy thing because we've been in quarantine for the most part for a year now. And like I said, my family didn't do Christmas. My nephew, my brother's kid, is just a little bit younger than my youngest. And I hadn't seen him in a long time because of COVID. Because in all this time, you know, usually I'll get together with my family pretty regularly. But because of COVID, we've barely seen each other at all. I've seen my brother once, maybe twice, since Christmas of 2019.
That's a long time.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So I hadn't seen my nephew since Christmas, and I ended up going by there for a short time a while ago. It was right around Christmas time because we didn't actually get together, but I just stopped by for a couple minutes just to drop off gifts and stuff, and I hadn't seen my nephew in a year, and suddenly he shot up like a foot and his voice changed and shit, and I'm just like, who is this kid? Totally different. And it's like, and that's a year, which in the grand scheme is pretty short, but...
Well, I'll tell you this, Hannes, because London is 6. The difference between 4 and 6,
oh boy,
is insane. So just like to try and equate to like going from being 2 and 4 to being a teenager, the difference between 2 and 4, you know the difference between 2 and 4? Mm-hmm. It's like 4 times as different between 4 and 6.
Yeah.
So at this point, I got somebody who's talking shit to me in my own house. Like, the other day, I was told, worry about yourself. And I was like, wait a second. What the fuck? What are you talking about right now? So,
they haven't developed that filter and that fear yet.
Right.
So they just spit it out. And then they get that little, they get a little nervous, but then as they get closer to teenager, then that filter kind of eases back again, and they start coming. And then once they hit teenager,
all bets are off.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, my 4-year-old, she said a couple of funny things the other day. Well, one morning she got up and she wanted oatmeal. I was like, okay, so I had like a prepackaged. Like it was like, I forget, it was like strawberries and cream or something. It's one of those flavors, and I made it for her. It's like, Dad, can I have a banana? I was like, yeah, sure. You want your oatmeal? She's like, yeah. So I cut it up, put it in oatmeal, And she's like, Dad, I didn't want it like that. I wanted it this way. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, you cut the banana wrong. I'm like, oh, God, whatever. All right, sorry, I cut your banana wrong. She's like, well, I'm not going to eat it now. I'm like, what?
The fuck you ain't?
Yeah, and then
That's what
so
you
this
think.
morning, so my wife was working and I was home with the kids, and we go to Sky Zone because that's like the only place that's open right now. We can keep the kids like semi occupied. So we're driving past this Burger King, and Toby again was like, Dad, I'm hungry. I was like, okay, after Sky Zone, we'll stop by somewhere to get something to eat. He's like, Dad, Sky Zone, nothing. I want hash browns from Burger King. I'm like, what?
Oh, man.
All right, you want hash browns? He's like, yes, Dad. I can't wait till we're after Sky Zone. I'm hungry now. I was like, didn't you guys just eat cereal when we left the house? But, the one good thing about this pandemic, the one like sort of like a silver lining is that I've been able to spend a lot more time with them. Because everyone who I talk to that has kids, Len, you said London is 6, and Gary, you have teenagers. It's everyone that I talk to is like, dude, it just from this age to to about they were 10, 11 years old, it just flies by, especially when they start school.
Yep.
And so I'm trying to enjoy, them actually growing up and trying to spend as much time, because I do generally enjoy spending time with my kids, even though they test my, they kind of tote that line with my patience, but I do thoroughly enjoy being around them, and this pandemic has allowed me to, if there's one saving grace about it, it's that it's allowed me to spend a lot more time with them.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely agree with that. It's been interesting. It's been interesting. I'll say that.
Well, it's a wide range, because I know people that are happy, like what you're talking about, and then I know some people that are like, oh, dude, I've been in the house with the kids for days. Like, I gotta get the fuck out of here, otherwise, I'm gonna kill everyone.
Yeah, my biggest thing is just keeping them, stimulated, like coming up with games. Like my wife's always like, well, play hide and seek with them. Make like a fortress in the basement, or we usually just take them outside to we go for walks, stuff like that. That's been helping, especially since the weather's been breaking. But I assume once it gets warmer, there's going to be more and more people outside, which is another challenge.
Yeah. I also imagine that it's got to be tougher with the younger ones, like what you guys are dealing with, because they don't handle things the same way. And like when it comes to the school stuff, I know a lot of people have had issues with it, because when they're young and they're still new to the whole school experience, they need that get out of the house and interact. They need that. So that's one thing that I have heard from many people that has been pretty tough with COVID.
Yeah.
That it's a lot harder to. What's that?
London has been going.
Yeah.
He goes to school.
Oh, he's been in school. Oh, okay.
Yeah, since September. They only shut down once due to a COVID scare, and otherwise, he's been in. I would say if there's been 110 or 20 days of school, they've only been at home for maybe 14 of those days.
Oh wow!
So, I can't say that he's not getting the school experience. It's different because the classes are split up different.
Right.
They only have 6 to 8 kids in a room instead of the full 16 or 20 that there should be, because they're breaking it up by session and the school is a lot more spread out. But he's getting the concept of going to school, so
that's what's really important.
At that, if you're a teenager, this is a fucking win.
Oh yeah,
not having to actually go to school.
Totally different thing. Well, they only recently, yesterday, the day before, did they announce that they're going to reopen the high schools.
Mm-hmm.
but it also depends on where you are, because I know people in different places. Some of them like yours have been going regularly, but then I know other people that have had the kids in and out because, oh, somebody got it at the school, so they close for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, and then they come back, and then somebody gets it again, and like they've been in and out. So it varies widely depending on where you are, because some of these places, you know, they keep getting exposure and they got to shut the whole thing down again.
Shut it down.
Oh, dude, speaking of today, now think about it. When my 2-year-old got into like a mini scrap today with another kid at the Sky Zone. So we were, and this is actually when we were getting ready to leave, because, you know, they have what's called toddler time from like 9:30 to 11. So I'm getting packed up.
Wait, hold on. So toddler time is like Fight Club?
Toddler Fight Club.
Like, we call it toddler time. We just put them in the room, put 2 in the middle, and just watch them.
Yeah.
Toddler.
But
sometimes
there was
weapons.
There was a little baby, little black young baby that was playing with Sloan initially on the trampoline. So we saw her on the way out, like her and her mom. So we're like, "Oh, Sloan, go say bye to your friend." And then, you know, Sloan ran over to her and like gave her a hug. And then the girl started like kind of like grabbing at Sloan's face. And then Sloan started grabbing her face, and they started like grabbing each other's hair and shit. So I go running over them. And mind you, I'm laughing at this point. This shit's funny as hell. Because
they scrapping.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, chill. And then, you know,
you're like,
one girl,
what hood is this?
and I'm trying not to laugh in front of Katie. And, you know, the woman was real cool about it. She was like, oh, you know, don't worry about it. You know, they're kids. But it was like, did my daughters get into like a fight with another 2-year-old in the middle of a trampoline park?
Yeah, she was trying to hit her afterwards and be like, this is how we say goodbye.
Yeah, I was just like, yo, chill, man. Like, relax.
That's funny.
But, dude, it was hilarious, man. I couldn't stop talking about it.
What hood is this?
You came in with the bonsai.
Wow, Len, you just said bonsai. That brought me to something else I want to add. No, go ahead.
Let me just... Can we tangent for just 2 minutes? If it was not for Crimefaces on Instagram, I don't know if I would have made it through the coronavirus. I think he's been keeping my spirits up for the whole year round. Because I found him about a year ago,
quality,
and I'm dying.
Quality content.
No, I'm telling you right now, you guys have to follow. This dude's the biggest hater in the world. I don't know if it's a dude. It's probably
Whoa.
You're talking to some big haters right now, so
you're surrounded by the elite hate squad.
Nah, dude,
and we're not alone, because don't make me call Glenn Lorio. Don't make me call my brother.
But
we're really taking this.
So whoever this person is goes around to like these Onlyfans pages, and the Instagram handle is stock, but it stands for "These hoes owe taxes." and he goes around, or whoever it is, tagging the IRS in the comments.
God. Oh,
to all these different. Dude,
yo, I can't get down with that level.
I can't get down with snitching, man.
Nah.
Whoever it is hating hard, but
oh my god,
that's the handle I've been following, because because then they post on their stories and stuff like that about how people block him, and how then he'll go on their stories and tag the IRS. Dude, that's another
level of hate that I can't get behind.
Yeah, I'm not on board with that.
You can't be snitching on OnlyFans girls. That's not right.
These ladies make their money.
Yeah, but it is really funny, though. I'm not gonna lie. At least I find it.
That's messed up. That's not the kind of hate that I can get behind, man.
Not the hate.
No. I could support all kinds of hate, though not racial hate, but just general hate. But that's not. I can't get with that, man.
You can't get down with that.
No.
But when you guys said bonsai, Gary, did you watch the WWE Icons thing on Yokozuna?
No, I have not. Not yet.
It's pretty good, and from what I've been hearing, just people in the wrestling talking about it, like people have been around Yokozuna. It's pretty accurate as his run in WWE and like his eventual him getting cut and then him dying. But it was pretty good. It was really, really well done. I mean, as far as like telling his story, it was pretty cool.
I mean,
I didn't know about him.
They're gonna treat him right because he's Samoan and he's part of the family, so they're always gonna treat him right.
Right.
They're not gonna do him dirty like, say, the Ultimate Warrior.
The Ultimate Warrior, right? The self-destruction Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, but I mean, he's part of the Samoan dynasty, so they're always going to take care of those guys no matter what. So I wouldn't expect them to do a hit job on them.
Right, and apparently Vince has one coming out about himself, so we'll see how that one pans out.
Of course he does. I'm surprised he hasn't done one on Donald Trump.
Oh yeah, and then the dark side of the ring, the one with Owen Hart on like how he fell.
That was so good though.
Yeah,
I didn't know like Vince just refused to pay a person to rig him upright to the zip line.
They were just
I thought it was
busts.
Yeah, I thought it was just like a freak accident, but it was like Vince's fault.
I mean, that's what they say. Nobody knows for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. But it's the same. It goes back to what I was saying before about Vince, and Vince has built that place into such a corporate culture that it doesn't surprise me at all, because what do corporations do? They try to cut corners,
right?
Maximize profits, all that shit. That's what all these corporations do. So him doing that is no surprise at all. And, you could see that from both sides, because a lot of corporations do that, but also a lot of smaller wrestling companies did that just because they had no fucking money. But in the end, there's been conflicting reports about it. I don't necessarily believe everything that they said on there, because there's been different stories. But the other thing with Vince also is that over the years, he's been able to do a lot of stuff because he's got the money.
Right.
The way Superfly Snuka never caught a charge for killing his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Vince made that disappear. And that's what Vince did, and back then it was easier, partly because wrestling was a different kind of thing. Like, wrestling had a lot of power in certain areas.
Yeah, it was still like people believed it was still like real. Like these guys really were like this outside the ring as opposed to instant in the ring too. Like when when Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Sheik got caught doing blow.
I was just
together.
Talking.
Yeah,
they weren't doing blow. They were smoking joints on the Palisades Park.
Right.
I was just talking about that recently on one of these episodes. Was it with Mo, maybe?
Yeah, with Mo.
Yeah, I was just talking about that because that's one of the things I remember from my childhood hearing about that sticks with me to this day. And it always blew my mind.
Yeah, because back then, wrestlers, like the heels and the faces didn't hang out with what they were supposed to.
They kept it all very separate.
Yeah, and they didn't break kayfabe either. So
yeah, they were in a feud. They were in a feud with each other,
right?
And then they got caught, and that was what kind of killed the Sheik career. Because it was after that he was eventually out of the company, and I think Hacksaw kind of suffered from it too, but not like Sheik, because that was long after Sheik and Hogan.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Sheik never recovered from his feud with Hogan.
No, he never.
It just never came back for him after that.
Yeah.
It's also weird now when I watch, like, I can't even, I mean, a couple of times I try watching the WWE product now. It's just so terrible.
Oh, no.
It's like hard to even, like, get through, like, a single,
I can't.
a single, like, of Raw, or not Raw, of Raw, anything like that. But one thing I have noticed too is like the heels now, I mean, I guess it's just a sign of the times or whatever, but like they can't like we talk about getting heat. When you talk about someone like like Rick Rude, back in the 80s and 90s, he would get all. I mean, again, I guess it's a sign of the times, but these guys, I don't believe them. Like when they're cutting promos and stuff that. They're just
but they're not. They don't have the skill to cut a promo like Rick Rude could cut a promo.
Oh no,
they couldn't cut a promo like Kurt Hennig could cut a promo. Like, come on.
Well, part of that is Vince, because now Vince has to overscript everything, and to me, it kills the whole business because. And it's funny because it's a parallel to something else. When I was talking about rap, when we were talking to Mo, and talking about freestyling, and how that was an integral part of the business of the rap game.
Right. Your shoots where you're.
It's the same thing to me with wrestling, that like these guys should be able to just work off the cuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so scripted now that when you see some of these guys get let go from WWE and go elsewhere, a lot of them just end up leaving the business altogether because they realize they do a handful of indie shows and they realize they can't hang. They can't hang in, even if they can hang in the ring, they can't talk. And you've got to be responsive to the crowd, and there's all these skills that some of these people just don't learn. And just in general, talking about what it looks like now, it's so bad. I can't even watch it. I watched the Royal Rumble because I always watch the Rumble. I enjoy it, and I didn't find it as enjoyable as I have in the past. And then I watched, since I still had the network, I watched another pay-per-view they did in the past couple of weeks, and I turned it off after like 2 matches. I can't even watch it anymore. It's just, and one of the things that kills me is, and to a point, there's only so much they can do because of COVID. They pipe in this fake crowd noise.
I hate fake crowd noise.
It's terrible.
I can't do it. And
I'd rather no noise at all.
I agree. And they have some of their people, the people that are like trainees and shit, they have them out in the crowd, but then they pipe in this obvious fake crowd noise that because it sounds like a couple of thousand people when there's maybe 100 in the building,
right?
Which is just laughable. But they're in for a heap of trouble when they're going to be allowed to have a crowd again, because a lot of the stuff they're doing now, a crowd would shit on, but there's nobody there to shit on. So once they come back, they're going to be like, uh-oh, because they're going to realize that a lot of the things they're doing, people don't like. They've just been able to be in this bubble and control all the reactions, but that's not going to last.
At all.
And I find there's so many indies out there right now, and I find that stuff to be so much more enjoyable. And now with some of these online services, there's so many indies that do shows that you can watch live. Like I spent this whole weekend pretty much watching, Friday and Saturday I watched indie wrestling shows, and then Sunday I watched the AEW pay-per-view. Like the whole weekend I was watching wrestling, and none of it was WWE. And I'm good with that. Because it's so bad, I just find it unwatchable. And there's good indie stuff out there that it's just more enjoyable to me.
Does it blow it away, or is it just more enjoyable?
It depends on what your criteria is. Does it blow it away production-wise? Obviously not. The only thing that's comparable to WWE as far as production is AEW.
But I've never really give a shit about the production aspect of wrestling per se, because I started listening as we've discussed. I mean, not listening, watching as we've discussed in, like, we'll call it 83, 84.
Right.
When the only place that had actual production value was WWF. But I always gravitated to AWA and NWA and WCCW, like the gritty, like actual wrestling.
Well, you know what I compare it to? Because this is another conversation we had on the podcast recently, talking about arena shows versus like little club shows. I think they both serve a purpose, and I think they're both enjoyable in their own way, but it's a very different experience.
Right.
A couple of years ago, I went with my girlfriend. We went to a show. It was a Ring of Honor show at the Hammerstein Ballroom on one night. And then the next night, we went to this little tiny indie show in a gym in the Bronx. And there were like 2 or 3 guys that were actually on both shows. But it's just so funny to think about. You know, one night they're out in front of a sold-out Hammerstein Ballroom, and the next night they're in this little tiny gym in the Bronx that maybe holds like 100 people. And it's enjoyable in its own way. It's just a very different experience. But to me, beyond the experience, just the way WWE is now, I don't enjoy it at all. And it's weird because they've got a bunch of guys that I've followed over the years who I really enjoy. And I'm talking guys like AJ Styles, who I've followed for 20 years. Guys like Kevin Owens, who I followed for a long time. And no matter what, you got these guys on TV, and I just can't watch it. I can't do it because it's so not enjoyable to me, the way they do their storylines, the way that they build these guys and then suddenly they change direction on them and you can't even follow it.
Right.
Like, at this point, to me, the GCW show that I watched on Saturday night was booked better to me storyline-wise. Mm-hmm. Than anything WWE is doing. Because they had a couple of turns, like people turning face and heel over the course of the show, that me and my girlfriend were sitting there like, holy fucking shit. And it was just that much more enjoyable, you know?
Right.
And to me, I'd much rather watch that stuff. I can't do WWE anymore. I enjoy AEW, although, like I said, it's a different type of experience. But when it comes to WWE, it's just I can't enjoy it anymore because they've just over-scripted it and micromanaged it to the point of where you've squeezed all the life out of it.
Right. I mean, we've gone over it a number of times. I don't really watch wrestling with any regularity anymore, mainly just because I'm busy. But if I'm gonna watch fighting, I'd rather actually watch like people actually punch each other instead of fake punch each other. Not that wrestling doesn't have a physical aspect to it, because clearly it is a brutal sport on the body, and these guys are, you know, well-conditioned athletes. It's not about that. I just don't really care about the storylines anymore. I fell out probably in the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, it's been 20 years since I was like really actually paying attention to it. But occasionally I'll catch it as it goes by, and I'll watch 10-15 minutes here or there just as a goof. But usually it's, you know, me clowning on WWE because they're like whenever I tune in, that's what I see because that's usually what's on. I made a point of watching AEW. I watched it for about 4 weeks straight, and I just never connected with any of the storylines personally. Okay. So I didn't stick around, but it definitely seemed more interesting than any time I've popped in on WWE.
Well, let me ask you this. I may have asked you this before, and Yohannes might be in on this also. Would you be interested in going to an indie show?
I mean, I would go.
Okay.
I'll go watch people play golf if it's in person. I don't like watching things on TV.
You're on your own with that, buddy.
I'm just saying, like, I'll go to a bowling match, like whatever it is. Like, if it's in person and it's live, I can find the enjoyment. I've gone and seen football games. I don't even like football games. Well, I don't like football, but I've gone to football games, like professional football games, and had a great time because I'm actually there. But for me to just like pull up a chair and sit and watch on the couch, it's just not. It's not that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, part of why I ask is because a lot of the indie shows that go on actually are down your way.
Well, then let's do it.
So,
yeah, I'm down with that. The last indie show I went to, it was a Ring of Honor show. It was at the 2300 Arena.
Okay.
Dude, it was awesome. It was the best time. It was crazy. It was packed house too. But yeah, it was cool. And I've been at WW. I mean, this is with WWF. I've been there again, like you said, Gary. Like the production was, it was crazy. I guess I can't even compare the times because this is back in like the Attitude Era when I went, so I can't even compare it to now. But just when you touched on the production value, it was insane. Like the main event was Angle and Brock Lesnar.
Okay.
It was just a house show.
See, that's it's probably around that time that was the last time I went to see a live WWF show. Because I used to go to a lot of the house shows and stuff. I went to the 2000 Royal Rumble at Madison Square Garden. Around that time, like probably 99 to like 2001 or 2002, I used to go to a lot of the shows at the Garden. And then I just kind of fell out of it because I enjoyed going to indie shows more. I like being up close and I mean, ECW really did it for me, but just in general, like I said, it's two different things. They're both cool in their own way, but WWE started to lose my interest a little bit. That and the prices just got to be too high. It's like it's not worth it. And I haven't gone in a very long time. But I'll still go. I'll go see Ring of Honor. I want to see GCW, which to me is probably my favorite promotion right now. A lot of the guys in AEW came from GCW, and some of them still work in GCW.
And that's in like not Tom's River, Freehold area, New Jersey-ish.
Lately, they used to do stuff there. Lately, the thing they did this weekend was in Atlantic City. Okay. And they've been doing stuff mostly there. Because they used to own their own venue. I don't know if they owned it, but they used to regularly use, we talked about this before, Game Changer World.
Changer World, right.
Yeah, but they don't anymore.
Okay.
Lately it's been Atlantic City mostly. There are some other independent promotions that run in like Central and South Jersey. And some of them put on good shows also. GCW, like I said, is probably the one that I'm most interested in seeing. And that would probably end up being in Atlantic City. So we'll see.
Is CZW still around?
They are. they're not nearly as popular as they used to be, to the point of where there's some guys that won't work for them anymore.
Right.
Because there's a lot of like political type beef. Because a lot of the guys that work for like GCW used to work for CZW, and like CZW at one point was like, well, you can work for them or you can work for us, and they were all like, okay, peace.
Right.
You know, didn't work out too well for CZW.
And where did Austin Aries end up? Is he back in Ring of Honor?
Austin Aries is just doing like different independent shows now. I don't think he's signed long term with anybody.
Right.
He was in all the different companies at different points, and last I've heard, he hasn't been working for anyone. But he's not in jail like Teddy Hart. But yeah, I mean, if you guys are down, especially once things
let's do that. Yeah,
once things get back to somewhat normal, I've made it a point. I really want to go see a GCW show. So hopefully we'll be able to make that happen. And if you guys are down, we'll make a little group trip out of it and have some fun.
Yeah, I'm down with that. I haven't been to last Ring of Honor show. That was when the last time they were in Philly, and that was pre-COVID. So
yeah,
it's been a while. Yeah.
Well, one of the other things, as we're nearing the end of this episode, that we've been talking about doing is that after COVID is over, we're going to try and do like a barbecue where we have everybody not everybody, but anybody that was on the show come hang out. So if you want to come hang out and eat some food, you should plan to attend.
Invitation only, but you are invited.
Oh, of course. I love barbecues. I can't cook with the shit, but I'll come eat.
I'm the one that's cooking, motherfucker, not you.
The official
the guy wearing the white New Balances and the apron.
Yeah, exactly. Doing the fucking dance while I'm cooking the fucking food.
Whatever, man. As long as the food tastes good, I don't care. Give a shit who's behind the grill.
It'll be the
you don't
official.
know about my cooking skills, son.
Well, the difference between cooking and grilling. I met plenty of cooks couldn't grill for shit.
I could do both. Baby.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I guess whenever a time and date approaches, I'll definitely be there.
All right. Because I know Ren is saying he's coming, but he's going to be upset with the food choices. Him and his crazy vegan bullshit.
We'll just throw some vegetables at him.
Oh shit! I forgot Ren's vegan. Shit. Oh well.
We'll just throw tomatoes at him.
So I'll bring like a cucumber or something. Here, eat this, motherfucker.
Oh man. All right. I think it's time to call it a night. Plug your social media if you want there, pal. You still doing the training?
Yeah. I'm still going at it, man. Still going strong. As I said, I got one of my guys fighting this Thursday at CFFC at the 2300 Arena in South Philadelphia. And it's going to be on UFC Fight Pass. His name's Gordon Wigington, making his pro debut against a guy that's 6'6", who's also making his pro debut. Nice. But it should be a good fight, man. He's been training real hard for the past year because everything was shut down, obviously because of COVID. But anyone looking for a strength conditioning coach, Havoc Strong _365 is my Instagram handle, and then just Havoc Training Systems on Facebook. My name's Yohannes Habtu, for those who don't know. But yeah, guys, thanks for having me on again. This is real fun. I'm surprised. Damn, it's 12 o'clock. I didn't even think we'll be on this long, but yeah, man, it's a great conversation. Always a good time talking to both of you.
Everybody thinks that, and then they fall into the trap.
It's like the Sarlacc pit. We just keep dragging you through.
Yeah. Oh, wait. You think you're going to do an hour and a half on the upgrade?
Nah, it's going to be 3.5.
Sorry.
No, I think the last time I was on here, we did it was like a 3-hour show or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah. But
yeah,
the good thing is, and I will point this out, you come on and you actually ask us questions, which helps keep the conversation going.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
Nah, man. It was just good conversation, good catch up with you guys, and yeah, man. When all this shit blows over, I'd love to take you up on an offer, Gary, about going to a show, and definitely down for eating some barbecue.
Let's do it. I'm dying to make that happen, and I figure you guys will probably enjoy it.
Even though you almost killed me when we were working out, well, when you were doing the thing for me, and I almost died because I'm pretty sure I had COVID. Like, I'm 100%. Remember, I was super sick.
Oh, wow.
I remember you were sick, right?
I can't make it. I just can't make it right now. I'm not feeling good. So when this blows over, I'm coming back. It's not that I didn't want to come back to you, but by the time I actually felt better was literally the point where everything shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So
hey, man,
I'll be back.
Len, you're one of the few people I will never turn away.
My fat ass appreciates that.
But actually, I have one more question for you. Since you're the audio guy, what is a good drum program that I can get for a PC?
What are you trying to program?
I don't know. I got a shit ton of like guitar riffs with no band and no means of.
Yeah, the best program you can get is find a drummer. Because that's gonna sound the best. Go find a drummer.
Based on my experience, that might be the worst thing you can do.
Dude, no one plays drums anymore, man. Everyone's guitar player or vocalist. No one plays drums. I've
real answer. If you just need a module and you don't need like the MIDI portion of it, the Easy Drummer stuff from TuneTrack is probably your best bet.
Okay.
Because it's reasonable price. It has some built-in MIDI stuff, like some stuff that you can put to a tempo and get reasonable tracks out of, like right out the box. And it's got solid samples. I even use some of their samples on some of my productions when I need something that just is gonna fit, and I don't want to do a heavy lift to make something else work. So if you're asking me, those are probably, and they're not that expensive.
Would you suggest that for Mac as well?
Yeah, across the board. Because pretty much at this point, there is no difference between whether you're going to run it on Mac or you're going to run it on PC. There's very few things that don't come for one or the other at this point. It's just they just make it cross-platform. If it works on Pro Tools, they've programmed it to work on Pro Tools in PC or Mac. And if it works in Logic, that means it also probably works in GarageBand. So, you know, you can do whatever you want. Depends on like how much you want to spend. Like if you wanted to run a more professional recording program, Reaper is basically free. So if you wanted to get Reaper, you could get a skin in Reaper that makes it look almost exactly like Pro Tools anyway. It won't function like Pro Tools, but it'll look like Pro Tools. And you can build MIDI in it. It'll do pretty much whatever you want. And if you have a small interface, you can plug your guitar into it and a bass into it, and you can have almost a fully tracked record, and it'll be pretty close to professional level, short of the mixing. So you could certainly do it, and it wouldn't break your bank.
Okay, cool, man. Like I said, I have a bunch of
further information. Just let me know, man. We could talk.
Yeah. Like I said, I just have a bunch of stuff like written. I just don't have anyone to play with because either no one plays anymore, or, you know. Finding a drummer is definitely the hardest part about this whole process. So I just said, fuck it, I'm just going to try and do as much as I can by myself.
Drummers are the worst.
Yeah, that's why when you said the best thing would be find a drummer, I'm like, oh, no.
Well, the reason why I say it would be the best thing to find a drummer is that you actually get, like, variation in sound when you're working with samples. you have to really put the effort in to make it sound like a real drummer and not like a program drummer. But if you're just trying to get your ideas down, do the program drummer.
Yeah, but the flip side of it is then you got to deal with a drummer.
Some of the best people and the worst people at the same time are drummers.
I'm sure people say the same thing about bass players too.
A lot of people say the same thing about bass players.
Yeah, so, whatever.
All right, gentlemen. Again, it was great talking to you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on.
The upgradepodcast.net for all links, etc. I am Gary Muttley. He is Len Carmichael. We are the Upgrade, and we will be back again next week. Peace.
Peace.